Chapter 313. Xiao Xuetong looked at Zhuo Yuchen, who looked like she wanted to work, and felt a little helpless. When she handed the contract over, she put it aside and said with a smile, "It's not easy to relax. Let's eat first, okay?" Zhuo Yuchen couldn't say no. Jiang Xiu smiled at her, and signaled the waiter to bring the menu. He handed it to her and said, "Sister Yuchen, see what you like to eat. We can talk while eating." She took the menu and said with a smile, "I'll pay for this meal. Don't fight with me." Xiao Xuetong said with a smile, "Miss Zhuo, why are you saving money for this guy? Of course he'll pay the bill. He's the only guy here. Let him be more spirited." Zhuo Yuchen smiled gently. Xiao Xuetong seemed to have a good relationship with him. She turned to look at the strange guy beside her. He was very different from what she had imagined. She heard that he was very lonely when he was young. It wasn't until his father was rehabilitated last year that the situation at home improved. His side profile was quite handsome. Jiang Xiu was actually very handsome when he wasn't deified. But after he was deified, in Xiao Xuetong's words, he was inhumanely handsome. All of his features were in line with the aesthetics of a perfect cut. He was like an ancient Greek god. It seemed like she was 4 years younger than him. If nothing had happened, he would have been the little brother next door. "I'll pay. Consider it as giving me a chance." The 2 bottles of wine for this meal were almost 300,000 yuan. Although Zhuo Yuchen could definitely afford it, she had just been independent for a long time. This was not a small expense. Zhuo Yuchen didn't argue. She was a girl who didn't fight or make trouble. Because she lost her parents when she was young, she didn't dare to be presumptuous and didn't dare to fight with others. She just wanted to be herself. "Then I'll pay next time. By the way, you seem to be very close." This was something that Zhuo Yuchen could use. "I met him when I went to Jiang City for a concert. At that time, I sprained my ankle. This guy actually lied to me and said that my leg was broken. He even said that I would become a cripple. I was so scared that I cried on the spot." Zhuo Yuchen thought to herself, "How evil." At this moment, Xiao Xuetong's phone rang. She looked at it and didn't avoid the 2 people on the other side. "Hello, Master Lu." Hearing this title, Zhuo Yuchen's ears immediately perked up. She realized who the caller was. "I'm sorry, young Master Lu. I'm afraid I can't promise you this. I can't sign a contract with you. I've already promised someone else." "Right. I know. I'm really sorry." Lu Xuanji's tone turned cold. "Miss Xu, did the other party offer a higher price than me? Don't worry, I'll pay whatever the others pay. You know the Lu family's power. Although my family isn't in charge of the SARFT, we still have some say over there." Xiao Xuetong said, "It's not about money." "I really can't agree," Lu Xuanji said. "The signing fee is 10 million. Xiao Xuetong shook her head. "Master Lu, it's really not about money. The conditions you've offered are already very generous." Lu Xuanji said, 50 million. Xiao Xuetong was a little angry. This was throwing money at people. Those who could be persuaded by money wouldn't feel humiliated, but those who couldn't be persuaded by money would feel very uncomfortable. At this moment, Xiao Xuetong was like that. Young Master Lu wasn't someone she could afford to offend. "Young Master Lu, please forgive me. 50 million yuan was really a lot, and it was almost Lu Xuanji's limit. It was not that easy for him to get 50 million yuan. If 50 million yuan could not change Xiao Xuetong's decision, then it was really, as she said, it was not about money." Lu Xuanji said, "Miss Xu, you'd better consider it carefully. I've been very friendly to you. I hope you'll respond in kind. I've promised someone to sign you, so I have to do it." Xiao Xuetong could hear the anger in Lu Xuanji's heart. It's indeed not easy to make someone popular in the entertainment industry, but it's very easy to destroy someone. As long as I say the word, no matter how popular you are, I'll immediately make you disappear from this industry completely. Xiao Xuetong's face turned cold. "You're threatening me? Ha! I've really never seen someone like you. I'm not willing to sign with you, so you're threatening me. Are you a hooligan or a robber? You're a descendant of the Lu family, but your conduct is worse than a street gangster's." She was also angered. She was so popular now. Everyone had to flatter and coax her when they saw her. She also thought of herself as someone important. It was also the first time she was threatened like this. Zui Yuchen was stunned. Listening to Lu Xuanji's tone, it seemed like Lu Xuanji was threatening Xiao Xuetong. This made her a little stunned. In her eyes, Lu Xuanji was very wise and elegant. Why would he threaten someone? Lu Xuanji said, "How dare you talk to me like that when you're just an actress?" Actress? Xiao Xuetong was so angry that her pretty face turned pale. What stars hated the most was being called an actress. This was a great insult, not only to their personality, but also to their entire career. Bastard! Xiao Xuetong fiercely hung up the phone. She was so angry that her towering chest was violently heaving up and down. "What's wrong?" Xiao Xuetong said. "I met a bastard who acted like a young master in front of me. I've never seen someone so uncultured. Don't mention it. It's disappointing." However, there was a flash of worry in her eyes. Just now, she was angered and turned hostile. Now that she thought about it, she felt a little regretful. Lu Xuanji wasn't an ordinary young master. He wasn't the kind who had stinky money. He was really a descendant of a rich family. As he said, the entertainment industry was a Vanity Fair. It was easier to destroy a person than anywhere else. Zui Yuchen didn't dare to say anything. She was now a little worried. If Xiao Xuetong knew that Lu Xuanji was helping her, she would definitely hate her. Then the possibility of signing with him would be very low. "It's good that you've sobered up." After the waiter brought the wine, Jiang Xiu acted as a waiter for the two beauties. He poured the wine for them and said, "What's the toast in advance? First, let's wish a happy new year." Cheers. Jiang Xiu and Xiao Xuetong were easy to talk with. In fact, Zui Yuchen could be said to be a stranger. She mixed in with them, and the atmosphere became a little boring. She herself was not a talkative person who could liven up the atmosphere. When the awkward situation happened, Jiang Xiu didn't know how to ease the atmosphere. He was an extremely self-centered person. Zui Yuchen usually didn't drink. Now she forced herself to drink. Her lazy face was flushed. The charm in her bones gradually emerged. Her eyes were blurred and her eyes followed her. She was really not suitable to do business, nor was she suitable to be a doctor. Jiang Xiu thought that she should be a poet or a lonely daughter. The sadness in her bones was born with a natural charm. "Sister Yuchen, if you can't drink, let's drink less." In fact, they didn't drink much. It was just 2 glasses of red wine. "It's okay." She held her cheeks and her voice became soft. "I'm so happy to drink with Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao, although my company is not big and has been established not long ago, we are a very standard company. We are very eager to have you join us." Xiao Xuetong said, "This guy has mentioned it to me a long time ago. Do you have a pen?" The waiter brought the pen over. She took the contract and signed her name. Zui Yuchen widened her eyes in disbelief. She sobered up a lot. No way, she signed it just like that. She couldn't help muttering in her heart. What was the relationship between Jiang Xiu and her? It was an important matter for her future. She made a decision so hastily. She was sure that Xiao Xuetong didn't know their company at all. You signed it?" "Yes." Zui Yuchen said. "But you didn't read the contract at all. You don't know my company yet. I'll understand it slowly in the future. Anyway, if I'm not happy here, I'll find this guy to settle the score." Xiao Xuetong smiled and pointed at Jiang Xiu. She should be a good drinker. After drinking a few glasses, her face didn't look drunk at all. However, there was a little more vitality in the smoke. The alcohol was more or less strong. Zui Yuchen finally understood that Xiao Xuetong rejected Lu Xuanji so firmly, because she agreed to Jiang Xiu. She looked at Jiang Xiu and said softly, "Thank you." Jiang Xiu said, "We owe you. I hope we can make up for your loss." Zui Yuchen didn't quite understand, but she couldn't ask in detail. She also felt that there were many things that Jiang Xiu and Xiao Xuetong couldn't say with her presence. She got up and said, "Sorry for taking up so much of your time. I'll leave first. Enjoy your meal. We'll talk about work matters after Xiao Zhao's contract officially ends." Xiao Xuetong nodded. "You drank. Is it okay to go back by yourself? My colleagues are waiting for me outside." Zui Yuchen avoided Jiang Xiu's gaze. She felt a little guilty because she didn't plan to marry Jiang Xiao. Goodbye. At this time, Lin Yueling was negotiating with the Zhou family. Chapter 3:14. The Zhou family's attitude was beyond Lin Yueling's and Old Master Lin's expectations. Jiang Xiao was already married, and there shouldn't have been a problem in canceling the engagement. However, something had happened. The reason for all of this was that Jiang Xiao had killed someone on Mount Yan. He had even said that the killer was Jiang Luo. Even now, the Gao clan had yet to seek revenge. There was no other reason than the fact that Jiang Xiao had become the #1 expert in the Hua nation after the Battle of the Elysium. He had become the most dangerous person in the Hua nation among the secret services of the various European countries. In China, it was rumored that he was a god. The Gao family must have gone to the secret services in China and were sent back. The Zhou family must have known about Jiang Xiao's identity. It wasn't difficult to confirm this. In fact, the Lin family had sent Lin Yueling back. Why wouldn't the Zhou family want such a grandson-in-law? The Zhou family was very satisfied that a child like Zhou Yuchen, who had no parents, could marry such a man. They even thought that it was worth marrying a woman who was favored by the family, as long as she was willing to marry into the Zhou family. Moreover, this was an engagement that had been set since young. Since the engagement had been set, it couldn't be cancelled. It was embarrassing to be cancelled. The Zhou family said that they couldn't afford to lose face. Their words were very harsh and their tone was very angry. Was the Lin family looking down on the Zhou family? Of course, Lin Yueling said no. She was just helpless. They were already married. However, the Zhou family didn't care about this. They even said that if Jiang family decided to cancel the engagement, the Zhou family would send Zhou Yuchen to Jiang Xiao's house tomorrow. They couldn't afford to lose face if the Jiang family didn't want to. They couldn't afford to lose face. Lin Yueling didn't know what to do. Her son was in high demand. It was supposed to be a happy thing, but it turned out to be a sad thing. She and Old Master Lin had no choice but to come back first. But when she got home, Jiang Xiao was nowhere to be found. Lin Yueling was furious, but she had nowhere to vent her anger. She felt helpless. The Lin family was to blame for this. It was their rash decision that led to today's situation. At this moment, Jiang Xiao was chatting with little heavenly Queen Xiao. Even though the new world had arrived, he believed that the entertainment industry would still be popular. Even in troubled times, dramas were still popular. Back then, the situation in Shanghai was extremely chaotic. Various warlords and powers gathered, but the film industry developed better and more prosperous. It was human nature to want to have fun. Was the person arguing with you on the phone Lu Xuanji? Yes. Jiang Xiao said. You don't have to worry too much. If you can't find me, you can find Wang Xintong. She will help you deal with it. You have done me such a big favor today. Of course, I have to make sure you are safe and sound. Xiao Xuetong said. Tisk, am I such a disloyal person? Do I still need to repay you for helping me do something? You saved me and even helped me get the RV. How should we settle this? Jiang Xiao said. Chivalrous woman. Xiao Xuetong giggled. You only know now? If I had a sword in my hand, I would also be the master of the world with a sword. I would make all you bad men become the ghosts of my sword. Jiang Xiao said. Don't hurt innocent people. How am I a bad man? Xiao Xuetong glared at him and said in an indescribably seductive manner. You belong to your bad. You are the worst. Her coquettish appearance seemed to have gotten to her head. Women's words usually had to be heard the other way around. If a girl said that you were a good person and gave you a good person card, congratulations, you can go to a corner and cry. If she said that you were bad, show her that you were bad. She was afraid that you were not bad enough. You drank too much. Xiao Xuetong said. I didn't. My alcohol tolerance is very good. In order to deal with those despicable bosses, Lai Jie specially trained my alcohol tolerance. You are drunk, but I am not drunk. Spiritual cultivation thought to himself. If I use a little divine power, the alcohol will disappear without a trace. I won't get drunk even if I drink 10,000 glasses. You can fight it out with me. However, Xiao Xuetong was a little drunk. Don't drink too much on the 4th day of the new year. Do you have someone outside to pick you up? There is a driver. Let's go. Let's meet again later. I still have something to do today. Lin Yueling called him, but it only rang twice before it stopped. She probably wanted him to go back, but she was worried that he really had something to do. Okay. She could also tell that Jiang Xiu might still have something to do. She dragged him out by force, so it was a good thing. After sending Xiao Xuedong out, she saw a driver at the door. He should be from her company. There was also an assistant chatting with the driver. When she saw Xiao Xuedong come out, she immediately went up to her. When she saw Jiang Xiu beside her, the assistant looked around nervously. After making sure there were no paparazzi, she escorted her to the car. When they returned to the Lin family, the banquet was still going on. Several young people were also called back to congratulate their aunt on coming home. Minor repairs. Come quickly. Lin Yueling called Jiang Xiu over. She sighed and said, We went to the Zhuo family. The Zhuo family's attitude was unexpected. They didn't agree. Everyone's eyes were fixed on Jiang Xiu's face, waiting for him to say something. Jiang Xiu was also quite surprised. Why? Lin Ziqing on the side chimed in. What else could it be? They want Mr. Jiang, of course. Lin Yueling nodded. Jiang Xiu said, But I'm married. Lin Yueling said, I thought of a way. Actually, the Zhuo family needs your influence and support. We can use another way to form a marriage alliance. I want to take Yuchen as my goddaughter. You can do something for the Zhuo family. The Lin family didn't say anything. Lin Ziqing secretly shook his head. It wasn't uncommon to take in goddaughters and godsons. Some were sincere, and some were for the purpose of benefits. But how could taking in a goddaughter compare to a marriage alliance? Jiang Xiu said, It's not a problem to do something for the Zhuo family. But will the Zhuo family accept it? Lin Yueling also didn't know. Lin Ziqing on the side said, Little sister, there's no such thing as a marriage alliance. What's the problem? It's a child. Lin Ziqing, the son of a wealthy family, was the clearest about this. The reason why a marriage alliance was the most stable was because of the offspring. Once Jiang Xiu and Zhuo Yuchen had a child, the child would generally belong to the Zhuo family. This person could not be split in half, right? There was no way to change the bloodline. Lin Yueling said, Second brother, are you saying that the Zhuo family won't agree? It's basically impossible. The Lin family enjoyed this banquet very much. For them, it was a double blessing. Lin Yueling came back. Although she was a bit cowardly, no one knew how embarrassing it was behind closed doors. In addition, they were willing to see the Zhuo family's reaction. When the banquet was about to end, Lin Xiaoke ran over and said, Cousin, do you want to go to the courtyard in the alley to play? Jiang Xiu wasn't interested in the old faces of the Lin family, so he went with Lin Xiaoke, Lin Mi, and the others to the courtyard in the alley. This was what Lin Shiqian called the capital's young master's favorite place to gather. There was a lot of news here. It was said that it was opened by a millionaire. This person was smooth and slick. His assets were originally average, but because he opened this high-class club that was very popular with young masters, in just a few years his net worth reached tens of billions and directly rushed to the Forbes list. Sometimes the news of young masters was really useful. Oh, isn't this the young master and young miss of the Lin family? I haven't seen you in a while. This person was the owner of the courtyard in the alley. His name was Su Liang. He wasn't very old, in his 40s, and his face was glossy. This is my cousin. I brought him here to play. Lin Xiaoke was young but mischievous. In fact, it was her first time here. In the past, her family didn't let her, and her brother and sister didn't dare to bring her here. Today, she swaggered over because of her relationship with Jiang Xiu. This place was actually a brothel. Both sides were filled with beauties wearing high-slit cheongsams. They were all young college students who came here to earn quick money. The reason why this place was high-end was that there were second-rate and third-rate celebrities sitting here. Even small celebrities were willing to come here. There were even young masters from the capital here. The young masters who came here to play were all younger than 30. They were all young and playful. Why is he here? You don't know? The grandson of the Lin family is called Jiang Xiu. He's the one who's going to marry Zhuo Yuchen. The news spread, and everyone who was here was shocked. The fortune teller said that Zui Yuchen's brows were naturally introverted, and she was a blessing to men. This wasn't a big deal. There were many beautiful women, and there were also many charming women. The problem was that this woman was the woman that Lu Xuanji had been in love with for many years. Lu Xuanji had been pressuring his family to marry Zui Yuchen. Now that Zui Yuchen suddenly had a fiancé, he was going to snatch the girl from young Master Lu, causing trouble. Who was Lu Xuanji? He was the outstanding representative of the third generation of the Lu family, and he was going to be the future leader of the Lu family. A mere relative of the Lin family was going to snatch Zui Yuchen from Lu Xuanji. Was he looking for trouble? Seeing that Jiang Xiu still dared to come out to play, everyone couldn't help but talk about it. They looked at him with gloating eyes. He didn't even know that he was in trouble. Many people were stunned when they heard the news. There was really someone who wasn't afraid of death. Chapter 315. This was a top-notch clubhouse in the capital. Not only were Lu Xuanji's friends here, but the Lu family also came here often. That brat dared to come? With this kind of trash, he dares to compete with my boss for a woman? One of the men in a suit stared at Jiang Xiu. This was Gu Letong. He respected Lu Xuanji and the others and regarded them as his big brother. How could he stand his big brother's woman being snatched away? Young Master Gu, don't mess around. The Lin family is here. Someone reminded him. The Lin family is nothing. 10 years ago, old Master Lin was also in the central government, so we respected him a little. Now, the second generation of the Lin family is useless. The sun is setting in the west. Who is afraid of him? Gu Letong had a long face and was very robust. The Lin family's second generation wasn't so useless. The eldest son of the Lin family died in an accident in the political battle with the Jiang family. This was a huge blow to the Lin family. Losing a future leader had a huge impact on any family. The Lin family had no one to replace him and went downhill. Now many people didn't put the Lin family in their eyes. Young Master Gu, you're here too? Lin Shiqian had already taken off his protective gear and could walk normally. However, he was still a little uncomfortable. The doctor urged him to exercise more. Your Lin family is flirting with my boss's woman. You still have the nerve to greet me? Gu Letong didn't give him any face. On the side, Lin Mi interrupted and said, Gu Letong, you're wrong. My cousin and Zui Yuchen's marriage was decided when they were young. If you want to talk about snatching, it's Lu Xuanji who snatched my cousin. Gu Letong snorted coldly. Nonsense, Sister Zui has been with my boss since he was young. They are childhood sweethearts, innocent playmates. Lin Mi said. Most of the people here know each other. They're also childhood sweethearts. Don't tell me they're all going to get married? Gu Letong couldn't win against Lin Mi. He laughed in anger. You think a marriage contract is amazing? Sister Zui will never marry such a thing. The Jiang family is finished. He's just a relative of your Lin family. Let me ask you, does your Lin family dare to go against the Lu family? Now that the Lu family was so powerful, would the Lin family have the guts to fall out with the Lu family because of a marriage alliance? Today I'll let him lie here. Jiang Xiu walked over. You want to fight me? Do I need to personally teach you a lesson? Gu Letong couldn't help but shake his head. Fighting and killing were the work of lowly people. They only needed to give orders. Just from this point, he could see that this person in front of him was completely worthless. But at this moment, there was a commotion at the door. Young Master Lu is here. Hearing this, the crowd quieted down. Lu Xuanji came personally. It seemed like this kid was really in trouble. Some things could be given to others, but women were the reverse scale of a man, especially the women that he had always protected. A tall man walked in with one hand in his trouser pocket, and the other swinging casually. His aura was so strong that the people around him made way for him and looked at him in shock. Lu Xuanji had already surpassed all the existences here. He was close to the level of their parents. They were all looking at him with reverence. Big brother. Lu Xuanji didn't look at him. His gaze fell on Jiang Xiu. There was no anger in his eyes as expected. It was as if he was looking at an insignificant person. I didn't expect young Master Lu to come. Your presence brings light to this small place. Lu Xuanji was indifferent. The Lin family siblings didn't dare to make a sound. They were obviously afraid of him, and didn't dare to be presumptuous in front of him. Boss Su, you're too polite. His gaze was always on Jiang Xiao. You're the relative of the Lin family? Everyone looked at Jiang Xiao sympathetically. Well, the main character was here. The two dragons were fighting for the pearl. A good show was about to happen. Let's wait for Jiang Xiao to be beaten up. Jiang Xiao said, You're Lu Xuanji? Lu Xuanji nodded slightly and pointed inside. He motioned for Jiang Xiao to go inside. He took a step forward, as if he wanted to sit down and discuss with Jiang Xiao. The people on the side were amazed when they saw this. Young Master Lu was indeed young Master Lu. His temperament was different. His strategy was brilliant. He didn't use force to oppress others. He was playing with high-class goods. Jiang Xiao also followed. He also wanted this matter to be resolved satisfactorily. Lu Xuanji sat down in the hall. He said to Jiang Xiao, I heard about the matter between you and Little Chen. It's also spread like wildfire in the capital. You've also heard about the matter between me and Little Chen, right? Jiang Xiao nodded. Yes. From the moment he entered, Lu Xuanji had been holding the initiative and guiding the development of the situation. He perfectly displayed the things he had honed in the officialdom bit by bit. Many people were convinced by him. Just this point alone was enough for them to learn. On the other hand, Jiang Xiao was like a country boy who had never seen the world. He was led by the nose. It was too embarrassing. He dared to compete with Lu Xuanji for a woman like this? A fool like him won't even know how he died. Someone shook his head and sneered. Many people felt the same way. Lu Xuanji still thought that Jiang Xiao was someone important. After all, the Lin family dared to push him out to oppose young Master Lu. But after meeting him, he was greatly disappointed. He had no interest in playing games with Jiang Xiao. Go back and tell your grandfather that I, Lu Xuanji, don't agree to this marriage. Don't let him think about such a beautiful thing. A distant relative who doesn't even have a home wants to cling on to the daughter of the Zhou family. It was this person who heartlessly abandoned Zhou Yuchen in the end. Although he didn't know the details in his previous life, he still remembered that Lu Xuanji didn't marry Zhou Yuchen in the end. This was because when Lin Yueling passed away, Jiang Xiao was about to graduate from university. Zhou Yuchen was more than 4 years older than him. At that time, she was almost 30. Lu Xuanji was a few years older than Zhou Yuchen. It was impossible for a person in his 30s to be unmarried at that time. How could Jiang Xiao compromise with someone who would abandon Zhou Yuchen? Jiang Xiao said, I'll also advise you. My marriage with Sister Yuchen is not up to you to decide. Wow. There was an uproar in the crowd. What right did he have to say such words to Lu Xuanji? Lu Xuanji was less than 30 years old, and he was already a deputy secretary in a certain city in Liaodong. It was said that the lowest level he could reach in the future was the governor of a province. According to this trend, he could climb to this high position by the age of 45. In the future, he could become a substitute for the central government. It was even possible for him to enter the central government. Lu Xuanji was recognized as a genius. Oh. Jiang Xiao's counterattack aroused Lu Xuanji's interest. Although he had great potential, he wasn't strong enough to destroy Jiang Xiao in the blink of an eye. I know you need this marriage, but it's impossible. However, I won't let you lose anything for nothing. If you have anything you want, you can ask me. Jiang Xiao was about to speak when Lu Xuanji reached out and stopped him. Don't be in a hurry to answer. Instead of insisting on an impossible marriage, it's better to change to some practical conditions. Don't fight because of personal feelings, lest you lose both the woman and the money in the end. He was convinced. Did you see that? This was the aura of the eldest son of the Lu family. Every word was heart-wrenching. Everyone, I brought you some bad news, but you can open your eyes and play the film. He handed a USB flash drive to Boss Su. Brother Jiang, after watching the film, you'll have a new understanding of this world. Everyone was curious about what kind of film it would be. Could it be that kind of film? That would be too exciting. However, when the film was released, it was definitely more exciting than they had imagined. It was a huge mountain. It was very big and very stuffy. Just looking at it gave people a suffocating feeling. A patch of darkness swallowed up the day. There were also chattering and angry roars. The ground was shaking violently. Trees were constantly collapsing and rocks were sliding down. Was it an earthquake? Suddenly, everyone's faces changed. Through the screen, their hair stood on end. The shadowy figures turned out to be monsters with heads on their heads. Oh my God, so many ferocious beasts. It was too terrifying. The number of ferocious beasts that stretched for several miles was no less than 100,000. What was even more terrifying was that they were orderly, surrounding them from all directions. This is an aerial image taken in the Liaodong mountain range. It's all real. These beasts can only be killed with 3 shots from ordinary guns, and they have to be hit in the vital parts. These beasts are trying their best to attack the city, Lu Xuanji said. This is currently something that the military strictly keeps secret. Brother Jiang, what do you think? That's all I have to say. The world is changing. Get some benefits. With money and power, do you have to be afraid of not having women? A peerless beauty like Zui Yuchen is not someone you can touch. Give up. Chapter 316. When they saw the video, everyone knew that something big was about to happen. With so many terrifying beasts appearing, it was definitely a disaster for humans. In Europe and Egypt, there had been rat hordes, but the consequences were so serious. Moreover, this was a terrifying beast hordes that couldn't even be killed with 3 bullets. One of them was enough to cause chaos in the city. Lu Xuanji's expression was calm and composed. He was an official in Liaodong, so he knew that this was happening in Liaodong. Young Master Lu, what's going on? Is it under control? It's too scary. Everyone was in an uproar, their eyes filled with shock and fear. Lu Xuanji said, Everyone, don't be so nervous. Since it's a beast hordes, then there's a beast king. In our Liaodong, there's someone called the Tiger of Liaodong. He's already made a move to intimidate the beast king. The beast hordes have already retreated. Phew. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. They were really scared just now. Gu Letong said, Is the Tiger of Liaodong you're talking about Xiao Yuanzhan? He's a demigod on the demigod ranking, a big shot in Liaodong. He controls the Liaodong border and sea trade. Lu Xuanji said, That's right. Looking at the terrifying scene on the TV, everyone present was filled with respect for Xiao Yuanzhan. No matter what he did for a living, whether he had committed murder or arson, he was now a hero. The people present felt like they were watching a god come down from the heavens. He came and went freely in the beast hordes, forcing back hundreds of thousands of beasts with his own strength. Lin Xiaoke said, Young Master Lu, what does this video have to do with my cousin and Zui Yuchen's marriage? Everyone present sneered. Lu Xuanji shook his head helplessly. Hey, what are you laughing at? Lin Mi pulled her to her side and said softly, He wants to tell Jiang Xiao and our Lin family that not only is he stronger than us, but he also has someone like Xiao Yuanzhan in the underworld. Everyone present didn't make a sound. In a situation where the world was becoming more and more chaotic, the Lu family had an underworld force to rely on. Lu Xuanji looked at Jiang Xiao and said, Brother Jiang, what do you think? Jiang Xiao gently shook his head, but his expression was resolute. Lu Xuanji's face turned cold. The person beside me is Master Liao Dong, Xiao Yuanzhan's disciple. His name is Jin Chengyuan. He can defeat 100 people in a minute. Do you want to try? The person behind him took a step forward. Only then did everyone notice that it was a man with short hair and white hair at his temples. He looked to be over 60 years old. He looked at Jiang Xiao with contempt. Mr. Jin entered the imperial capital to be rewarded on behalf of your master. Jin Chengyuan said, I see a bit of a martial artist bearing in you. You should have practiced martial arts before. Come out and practice. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. His Chinese was very difficult to pronounce. Judging from his accent, he should be a Korean. Jiang Xiao shook his head. Ah. Gu Letong, who was on the side, laughed loudly. He pointed at Jiang Xiao's face and said, Boss, you scared people until their faces turned white. Jin Chengyuan said, Since you practice martial arts, why don't you fight? Don't you even have the courage to fight? Jiang Xiu said, You're not qualified. Not to mention you, even your master doesn't have the qualifications. Ha ha ha. Jin Qingyuan laughed loudly. What big words! My master is not someone you can mention. In the entire China, there are only 2 people who are not qualified to challenge my master. Which 2? Jin Qingyuan said. The first is the master of the West Shu Sword Palace. He was in the limelight during World War II and survived the nuclear bomb. He was known as the spokesperson of martial arts in China for decades, Si Wuxia. At the mention of Si Wuxia, everyone present was moved. Because he was active during the war, it was inevitable that many legends were left behind. His story was also widely spread, and many people regarded Si Wuxia as a legend. Not only was Si Wuxia admired in China, but he also enjoyed great fame overseas. The second is Jiangnan's Jiang Luoxia. He created the 9 mysteries to cleanse the heavens. He defeated Ji Wudao and the Annihilation sect. During World War II, Si Wuxia was like the sun in the sky. Now Jiang Luoxia dominates the world. Let me ask you, are you Si Wuxia or Jiang Luoxia? How dare you speak such arrogant words? Lu Xuanji had warned that if Jiang Xiu agreed, then it would be fine. If he did not, then Jin Qingyuan's mission was to kill him. The best way to solve this problem was to kill Jiang Xiu. If Jiang Xiu died, then it would depend on the marriage between the Lin family and the Zhou family. He did not think that the Lin family would fight to the death with the Lu family over a daughter, who had been kicked out of the family for 20 years, and the son of a Jiang family member. You're courting death. His figure dashed out like lightning and kicked sideways. It looked a little like Taekwondo, but it was faster and more ferocious. His kick was enough to break a big tree that a person could hug. For a body of flesh and blood like Jiang Xiu, one kick was enough. Watch out! Someone cried out involuntarily. However, Lu Xuanji was too fast. He dashed out from where he was standing, leaving a trail of afterimages. Buzz! When he kicked, it felt as if the air was compressed and the airflow in front of his feet was broken. The moment he made his move, everyone was dumbfounded. The young masters who were present also had some martial cultivators with them. All of them revealed an aghast expression. The glass wall that was more than 10 meters away unexpectedly issued a pung 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 sound. Jiang Xiu did not want to make things difficult for him. He did not know what would happen to Zhuo Yuchen in the future. Although Lu Xuanji was a little overbearing, he was still a good person to Zhuo Yuchen. But now, he could see that Lu Xuanji wanted to kill him. This kick was enough to kill an ordinary person on the spot. Since Lu Xuanji wanted to kill him, how could Jiang Xiu let him go? Boom! In the hall, it was as if thunder had exploded. The air surged violently, the walls and the roof shook, and the light bulbs and cups cracked. At that moment, it was as if the sky had collapsed and the earth had sunk. And this time, all it took was a finger. Jiang Xiu's finger hit the center of Jin Qingyuan's foot. At that moment, time seemed to have stopped. When a violent force burst out, it was like a tsunami. Jin Qingyuan was sent flying. At that moment, his heart was beating wildly. At that moment, he felt as if his life could not keep up with the roaring force. He had never been so close to death before. His face instantly turned pale. He looked at Jiang Xiu with endless fear in his eyes. How? He was destroyed bit by bit, along with the tables and chairs that were shot out. They turned into a mixture of fine debris. It was as if they had seen a computer special effect. A person completely disappeared. The whistling sound filled this place. Everyone present hurriedly covered their ears. When everything fell, the hall was dead silent. They were stunned. The people from the Lin family had only heard that Jiang Xiu was known as the #1 powerhouse in Hua Nation. They did not expect him to be so powerful. Was he still human? Lin Mi, on the other hand, once again witnessed how terrifying Jiang Xiu was. The other martial artists were also dumbfounded. As for Lu Xuanji, his eyes were about to pop out. Lu Xuanji was Xiao Yuanzhan's disciple who enjoyed a great reputation in Liaodong. However, he was killed by Jiang Xiu in one move. What shocked him the most was the way he killed him. That was the way a martial artist killed. It was as if a god had killed him. Yu. At that moment, Lu Xuanji's face was pale. He broke out in cold sweat, and his body was trembling. Who exactly are you? Jiang Xiu looked at Lu Xuanji and said, Didn't he say that? There are only 2 people who are not even qualified to be his master. My surname is Jiang. Boom. Everyone's mind was blown. Lu Xuanji's eyes widened. You're Jiang Luoxia? Jiang Xiu said. Yes. Greetings, Mr. Jiang. Greetings, Mr. Jiang. The martial artists on the side knelt down and saluted him. Jiang Luoxia was known as the #1 powerhouse in Hua Nation. Yu, Jiang Xiu's eyes were cold. He looked directly at Lu Xuanji and said, You want to kill me? No. Lu Xuanji was so scared that his soul almost flew out of his body. He was crying bitterly in his heart. He felt like a clown trying to show off in front of Jiang Xiu. He even played the video to scare him. He had lost all his face. What was even more pathetic was that he didn't know if Jiang Xiu would kill him too. To someone like Jiang Xiu, killing people was like eating. When he thought of that, the fear in his heart burst forth. His legs went weak and he could no longer stand. With a plop, his legs went weak and he knelt on the ground. Mr. Jiang, please spare my life. At that moment, 2 people came in. One was Zuo Yuchen, and the other was her classmate, Sister Yu. Chapter 317. When Zuo Yuchen and Sister Yu entered, they saw that the hall was in a mess, as if it had experienced a terrorist attack. There were many people inside, so they walked in boldly. However, what they saw next stunned Zuo Yuchen. Lu Xuanji was trembling as he knelt in front of a boy. Seeing this scene, she couldn't describe how she felt. There was confusion and sympathy, but all the feelings in her heart were replaced by curiosity. As the saying goes, men have gold under their knees. Why did he have to kneel? Who was it? What was it that forced Lu Xuanji to kneel? When she took a step forward and saw clearly, she was extremely shocked. It was actually him. Her pair of beautiful eyes suddenly widened and flashed with shock. It was Aunt Yuling's son. She didn't even remember Jiang Xiu's name. Sister Yu was stunned. The man who was omnipotent in her heart, so powerful that he made her tremble, was now kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. Moreover, this man seemed to be the one they met today. Yu Chen is that person. Mr. Jiang, please spare me. It's my fault for not recognizing Mount Tai. I don't want Zui Yu Chen anymore. I'll give her to you. I'll give her to you. Zui Yu Chen's eyes widened in disbelief. Lu Xuanji's great and glorious image in her heart collapsed. All the confusion, sympathy, and indignation from before turned into a deep sense of loss. Many of the young masters on the side looked at him with disdain. Boss. Gu Tongli's face was full of bitterness. The boss he had followed for so long turned out to be such a coward. This made his face burn, and he was so embarrassed that he couldn't raise his head. Jiang Xiu said, If you're going to die anyway, why don't you die standing? Lu Xuanji shook his head desperately in horror. No, Mr. Jiang, I said the wrong thing. I offended you. Please spare me. I won't dare to appear in front of you again. Please spare my life. Lu Xuanji had heard a lot about Jiang Luoxia's deeds in Liaodong, especially from Xiao Yuanzhan. Xiao Yuanzhan was full of praise for Jiang Xiu. There was no other reason. Xiao Yuanzhan had been to Galuya and witnessed the Battle of the Heavenly Gate. Jiang Xiu had slaughtered 23 powerhouses who were on the same level as him, and displayed the might of China. It shocked him. Hua Nation had never been so awe-inspiring on the international stage. It had caused a huge change in the underground forces of the entire Europe. The title of the strongest man in Hua Nation was not self-proclaimed by Jiang Luoxia, nor was it claimed by the people of Hua Nation. It was the foreigners who claimed it first. Moreover, it was said that this person's methods were extremely cruel, killing people like cutting grass. He was a devil who could kill anyone he wanted. At this moment, he only wanted to save his life. He did not even realize that tears and snot were flowing down his face. He did not care about these things. Many people were so scared that they wet their pants in the face of death. Seeing Lu Xuanji like this, Zui Yuchen did not know if she should appear. She knew that if she appeared at this moment, it would make Lu Xuanji even more embarrassed. She turned around and wanted to leave, but the reason for the conflict between the two was definitely because of her. If she left, what if something really happened? She braced herself and walked over. When Lu Xuanji saw her, he was stunned for a moment. Then he hugged her leg in jeans. Xiaochen, save me. Plead with Mr. Jiang. Zui Yuchen said. Why don't you spare him? Her expression was also very awkward. The happiest and proudest thing for a girl was two boys fighting for her. This could make her feel proud, which meant that the girl was charming. However, when she was older and had passed her teenage years, the situation was different. It was very awkward to encounter such a thing. The people around her would say anything, especially things between a man and a woman. Jiang Xiu said, Get lost. Tell Xiao Yuanzhan that I'll be waiting for him at any time. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jiang. Lu Xuanji crawled up and ran out of the clubhouse. Slowly, the fear on his face faded and was replaced by anger. He had been humiliated in front of so many people. He had lost all his face. Thinking about it, Han Xian had been humiliated before. A real man should know when to yield and when to stand tall. He found a very good reason for himself. Zui Yuchen watched him run out of the club. She bit her red lips and wanted to chase after him to comfort him. However, she realized that he was in the most difficult position right now. Her comfort would hurt his self-esteem. She turned around and wanted to ask Jiang Xiu what was going on, but felt that she was unnecessary. She came here because Lu Xuanji asked her to come. Now it was not right for her to stay here. It would be strange for her to leave, but in the end, she decided to turn around and leave. Sister Yuchen, you're leaving just like that? Lin Xiaoke said. Why don't you come to our house? Zui Yuchen shook her head and said, Next time. The news spread like the wind. Everyone who heard the news was dumbfounded. It was as if they were listening to a heavenly book. Jiang Xiu, the relative of the Lin family, was actually Jiang Luoxia, and he almost killed Lu Xuanji. Those who were originally optimistic about Lu Xuanji were taken aback. It was the Spring Festival, and this matter had become the hottest topic of conversation in the capital. On the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, Lin Yueling was going to take Jiang Xiu back to Jiangnan. Jiang Xiu was going to his father-in-law's house. However, because of this matter, he had to stay for 2 more days. It started to drizzle, making the weather extraordinarily cold. Zui Yuchen's languid face was filled with sorrow. Her eyes were a little red and swollen. She held an umbrella in her hand and walked aimlessly. Every time she was in this state, she would unknowingly come to Yunbao Mountain, to her parents' coffins. Last night, she had cried the whole night. Her grandfather and her adopted parents, who were also her biological uncle and aunt, did not care about her feelings at all. Jiang Xiu was already married, and they still wanted her to marry him. Wouldn't that mean she was going to be someone's second wife or concubine? She cried bitterly and begged, but it was of no use. In exchange, she was met with indifference and words like wanting her to repay their kindness. She knew that if her parents were here, they would not be able to bear it. Dad, Mom. Looking at the smiling faces of her parents on the tombstone, tears fell down her face again. She felt so helpless and lonely. Her entire soul was empty. The drizzle fell on the black umbrella, and the cold wind blew on her face. The gloomy sky made her sad mood even more gloomy. A long time ago, there was someone like you. He cried silently in front of his parents' tombstone. At that moment, he felt that the sky had collapsed and the world had been destroyed. His heart was filled with coldness and loneliness. He was like a walking corpse. Hearing the sad voice, Zui Yuchen turned her head and was surprised. Why are you here? Jiang Xiu said. The Zhou family said they didn't know where you were. I guessed that you might be here? Zui Yuchen said. How did you guess? Jiang Xiu said. Do you believe in past lives? Zui Yuchen said sadly. Do people really have afterlives? Jiang Xiu said. In my past life, the person standing in front of my parents' coffins was me. The person comforting me was you. You saved me. If it weren't for you, I might have died then. Then I wouldn't be who I am now. Zhou Yuchen felt that his logic was completely illogical. However, Jiang Xiu's eyes showed the same sadness. You're afraid that I'll take things too hard? If I didn't, I would have died countless times. Jiang Xiu said. That's true. Maybe I'm being unreasonable. Isn't it just marriage? Whether it's marrying someone you don't like or becoming someone's concubine, It's not a big deal. Life still has to go on. Zui Yuchen ignored him. Jiang Xiu said, "Don't worry. I won't embarrass you. If you don't want to, I can make the Zui family yield." This wasn't too difficult for Jiang Xiu. Jiang Luoxia's ability was enough to suppress the Zui family. Zui Yuchen looked at Jiang Xiu in surprise. When she heard the news, she was also very surprised. The little brother next door in front of her was actually the most popular person in China. However, her eyes dimmed immediately. Even if Jiang Xiu let her go, would her fate change? No. I'm still an orphan. Grandpa and the others will still let me marry someone I don't like. Jiang Xiu made her feel his sincerity. Especially, he was willing to use his power to make the Zui family yield and give her freedom back. Since Lin Yueling's appearance, this family gave her a warm feeling. It was a pity. If Jiang Xiu didn't marry, Zui Yuchen could accept it. But now Jiang Xiu said, "Let's make a gentleman's agreement. You'll suffer for 3 years. After 3 years, I'll let you go. By then, I'll make you so powerful that the Zui family won't dare to be presumptuous in front of you." You don't have a choice. Zui Yuchen bit her red lips. Was she really going to marry him and become his concubine? She was so embarrassed that she didn't know what to do. Jiang Xiu said, "Give me your hand." Taking her pulse, Jiang Xiu said, "Just like what I encountered, your body constitution is very special. Take this book and read it. It's the basic introduction to Tianqing School. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me." Chapter 318. Holding the book Jiang Xiu had written on the spot, Zui Yuchen said in surprise, "You want to teach me martial arts?" The person in front of her was known as the most powerful person in China. His secret manual must be a treasure. Jiang Xiu shook his head and said, "It's not martial arts, it's cultivation." Zui Yuchen said, "Cultivation?" Jiang Xiu nodded his head solemnly. "This is the basics of immortal cultivation. Tall buildings start from the ground, and the foundation is very important. You must build a solid foundation in order to pursue the path of immortality in the future, and look down on the world." Zui Yuchen said in disbelief, "You're willing to teach me?" Jiang Xiu put his left hand behind his back and held an umbrella with his right hand. His posture was tall and straight, and he looked even more powerful and mysterious in the dark rain. Tianqing School's secret cultivation methods are never taught to outsiders, but you're an exception. When you go back, find a place where no one is around, memorize the content, and burn it, Zui Yuchen said. But she wanted to say that she hadn't agreed to be with him yet. She still couldn't accept this. She was embarrassed at the thought of being his concubine. Jiang Xiu reached out his hand. His meaning was obvious. He didn't want to return the manual to her. Zui Yuchen bit her red lips. She was conflicted. Yes, very conflicted. Jiang Xiu said, "I'm not a good person. To be more precise, I'm a big devil, a tyrant. But I've never forced anyone. Don't worry, I won't touch you if I don't agree." Zui Yuchen's pale face was slightly red. She said, I didn't mean that." Her voice was soft and weak, with a hint of shyness. Jiang Xiu said, "If you didn't mean that, then do you want me to touch you?" Zui Yuchen's face flushed red. She looked at Jiang Xiu's teasing expression and thought to herself, "I thought you were a good person. You're just a lecher." "I'm kidding." Jiang Xiu said, "Let's go. It's too cold here." "Okay." Zui Yuchen carefully put the book of Tianqing School Basics into her bag. She knew that what Jiang Xiu gave her was very important, so she walked out with Jiang Xiu. The gloomy rain continued, bringing with it a chill. Because no one had left, the cemetery regained its silence and desolation. Both of them came by car. Jiang Xiu asked his driver to follow them in his car, while he sat in Zui Yuchen's car. Zui Yuchen wanted to refuse. She was still against Jiang Xiu from the bottom of her heart, but Jiang Xiu opened the door and sat in the front passenger seat without hesitation. Zui Yuchen asked, "Where are you going?" Jiang Xiu said, "I'm not going anywhere. It's up to you." Zui Yuchen pursed her lips. She didn't want to make things difficult for Jiang Xiu. After getting in the car, he still didn't say where they were going. What did he mean? But she had no choice but to start the car. She was a very slow person to warm up. Perhaps it was because she lost her parents when she was young, so her sense of self-protection was very strong. It was difficult for her to get familiar with someone. She would choose to stay away from anyone who made her feel uncomfortable. Jiang Xiu sat beside her. He couldn't tell what he was feeling, but he couldn't calm down. They were complete strangers, but suddenly there was a layer of intimacy between them. This made her feel very uncomfortable. She didn't speak. Jiang Xiu didn't speak either. The atmosphere was very awkward. Zui Yuchen remembered that Jiang Xiu called her sister Yuchen when they first met. But she didn't know how to address Jiang Xiu. After all, they might have to try to get along in the future. How should I address you? Jiang Xiu said. Call me master. Ift. Zui Yuchen almost choked. She glared angrily. How could this person have such a bad taste? He really treated me as a concubine. Call me master. How could he say that? Jiang Xiu turned to look at her and said, Why? You don't want to? If you don't want to call me master, then call me hubby. But this guy was so shameless that it made people's hair stand on end. Dream on. Zui Yuchen said. Just call me master. She couldn't call him hubby. She wasn't the kind of person who could easily call someone hubby. Besides, wasn't she just a concubine now? Jiang Xiu said. In the future, when master says east, you're not allowed to say west. Wait, that didn't seem to be the agreement just now. It sounded very free. There was a 3-year agreement and all kinds of respect. Now it seemed like she was selling herself. Did she meet a swindler? Zui Yuchen looked at Jiang Xiu. Her eyes were very nervous. That guy looked serious and didn't seem to be joking at all. She had the urge to punch him hard in the face. This guy was born to attract hatred. Although he didn't do anything wrong, his face was repulsive. Master, your grandma. Zui Yuchen drove the car. As there weren't many cars in the suburbs, it could be said that it was empty. When she passed by the Imperial Capital Zoo, she drove the car inside. Jiang Xiu said, Why are you going to the zoo? Zui Yuchen said, Aren't you fine and let me make the decision? After getting out of the car, Zui Yuchen bought a ticket and entered the zoo. It was the new year, but the zoo was still open. It was probably to entertain the children. But because the weather wasn't good today, there was basically no one. Zui Yuchen held an umbrella and walked inside. She seemed to be admiring the animals. I don't have much impression of my parents. The only thing I remember is that they brought me here. This zoo is the only memory I have. Jiang Xiu said. I didn't go to the zoo when I was young. Jiangcheng was small and there was no zoo. It was built later. But when it was built, my father was in prison. My mother was busy making a living. It was a luxury to come out and play. This is my first time in the zoo. Zui Yuchen turned to look at him. There was some sympathy in her eyes. The two of them were quite similar sometimes. They were quite miserable when they were young. Perhaps it was because of similar experiences that they felt that they had some common language. I accidentally gave my first time to you. Zui Yuchen's pretty face was slightly hot. Why do the words in your mouth turn sour? Can't you speak properly? Jiang Xiu said. Heh, you still dare to teach your old master a lesson. Zui Yuchen couldn't help but want to laugh. You're rebelling. When I go back, I must show my authority as a husband and show my power as a man. The more he said, the more shameless he became. Zui Yuchen ignored him and walked away. She thought to herself that she couldn't let him take advantage of her all the time. She had to teach him a lesson. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to live. In front of the lion's cage was the lion's cage. She stopped in her tracks. The lion was lying lazily on the ground. In such cold and rainy weather, it would make people sleepy. She said, Old master, come over. Jiang Xiu put on airs and walked over. Second aunt, what's the matter? All right, he didn't call her sister Yuchen. Second aunt was too much. Do you see that lion? Do you dare to reach in and touch it? She guessed in her heart that Jiang Xiu definitely wouldn't dare. No one would dare to do such a thing. Lions would bite people. Jiang Xiu said. So what if I touch it? Zui Yuchen said. If you dare to touch it, I'll let you kiss it. You're so bad. Even if you become a ghost under a peony flower, you'll still be dissolute. What's so good about kissing the face? Zui Yuchen said. Then what do you want? Jiang Xiu's gaze fell on her high chest. This girl's eyebrows were restrained. This kind of girl had a special characteristic. It was also a standard of a good girl. That was, she was light in bones, fleshy and soft. Although she looked plump, she completely met the standard of a good girl. Her weight didn't exceed 100. This old master's hand is cold. Reach in and let me warm it up. Zui Yuchen's charming face suddenly flushed red. But seeing the provocation in Jiang Xiu's eyes, in addition to the fact that she was the one who initiated this bet, she couldn't back down. Warm it up then, but what if you don't dare to? Jiang Xiu said. I'll let you warm it up. Zui Yuchen had seen it for herself. This guy's skin was really thicker than the city walls. You wish. If you don't dare, I won't make things difficult for you. You're not allowed to call me old master. Let's change it to a form of address. I'll call you whatever I want. She was sure that Jiang Xiu wouldn't dare. It was a lion. Who dared to reach in and touch it? What if it bit? Jiang Xiu fiercely glared at her high chest before retracting his gaze and saying, It's a deal. You go. Zui Yuchen egged him on. The lion turned its head and looked at them with a fierce look in its eyes. When Jiang Xiu approached, it let out a terrible growl from its throat. Jiang Xiu was obviously stunned. Zui Yuchen's face showed a proud smile. Are you afraid, little guy? I can't defeat you. How could a mere lion scare the people of spiritual cultivation? Zui Yuchen had underestimated Jiang Luoxia, who was known as the strongest man in China. The reason why Jiang Xiu was stunned was because the lion's sudden anger swept away its laziness. It must have been provoked. A thought flashed through his mind. The lion could understand what they were saying. It wasn't hard to make the connection. There was a beast tied in Liaodong. Humans had all reverted to their ancestors. Naturally, the beasts were the same. How about it? Are you afraid? Then be obedient and call me Grandaunt. Zui Yuchen was a little proud. Chapter 319. There were also beasts in the immortal martial continent, but their intelligence was much higher than those on Earth. On Earth, a cat's intelligence was equivalent to a 1.5-year-old child, while a dog's was equivalent to a 3-year-old child. On the immortal martial continent, a cat's intelligence was equivalent to an 8-year-old child, and a dog's was even higher. Once the intelligence of the beasts on Earth increased to the level of a child, or even an adult, in theory, they would have the possibility of cultivating. Looking at the lion's thoughtful gaze, Jiang Xiu recalled a sentence from the snake demon god. Humans had only taken a shortcut in the past few thousand years. Once they reached the Tao, nothing could last forever. Humans couldn't be the main characters forever. On Earth, humans were the absolute leader of all living things, but on the immortal martial continent, it was different. Their intelligence was actually not ranked high, not to mention the power of their bloodline, which was the most mediocre. Therefore, on the immortal martial continent, there were many non-human rulers. In other words, there was a possibility that Earth was not ruled by humans. On Earth, humans had already been destroyed twice. Although the specific reason was unknown, it couldn't be ruled out that it was because of the rise of the different species. This lion's gaze is so fierce, it's really scary. Zui Yuchen's beautiful face was filled with fear, but her tone wasn't scared at all. Instead, it was full of ridicule. She was sure that Jiang Xiu wouldn't dare. If the lion was sleeping on the ground, it would be fine if he secretly stroked it. But now that it was awake, if he stretched his hand in, it would definitely bite him. Jiang Xiu chuckled twice. Not to mention that this lion only had basic intelligence. Even if it cultivated to the level of a demon god, Jiang Xiu wouldn't be afraid at all. With just his arm, the lion wouldn't be able to bite through it at all. However, he didn't have masochistic tendencies. Jiang Xiu let out a beast-like voice from his mouth. Well, it couldn't be called a beast. It was very deep and ancient, as if it came from a very distant place. He was speaking the elementary divine language. The lion's eyes were filled with fear. It actually obediently crawled on the ground and let out a low growl. However, its slightly puffed fur drooped down. Obviously, it didn't dare to be rash. Seeing this scene, Zui Yuchen's beautiful eyes widened. You know the beast language? Jiang Xiu said. This isn't beast language, it's God language. Even if he doesn't understand it, he can feel the power within the language. It's enough to make him feel fear. Divine language? Zhuo Yuchen was very fond of music. In fact, there was no specific language to express music. You could feel it. Low and high notes could affect one's mood. It was easy to understand why a person who didn't understand English couldn't stop her from listening to English songs. However, the word Jiang Xiu used shocked her. Yes, God's language. The power of the God's language is actually not inferior to the so-called mantra of the mages on the streets. Jiang Xiu had also spent a lot of time on this. Some of the spells were explained in the divine language. If one didn't learn it, they wouldn't understand it. Zhuo Yuchen's horizons had been broadened today. She thought to herself, no wonder everyone said that he was the strongest person in China. They weren't bragging. This made Jiang Xiu even more mysterious. However, immediately after, Zhuo Yuchen's awareness of the situation was terrible. The lion was so obedient in front of him. Why would Jiang Xiu be afraid of touching it? Wouldn't she lose this bet? Her pretty face immediately turned red. Of course, she knew that this so-called warmth was not so simple. She dared to bet because she thought that she would definitely win. Now it was a success. Anyway, I'm a little girl, not some manly man. I'm going back on my word. Seeing Jiang Xiu reach his hand in, Zhuo Yuchen grabbed his clothes and said, "Ah, don't, the lion will bite you, don't." She screamed until her voice was hoarse. It was heart-wrenching. Of course, she wasn't afraid. In fact, she was worried that Jiang Xiu would warm her up. Seeing her scream so miserably, the lion in the cage looked at her sympathetically. Restrain your grief. No matter how strong she was, she couldn't move Jiang Xiu. Don't touch, don't touch. Just like that, she watched in despair as Jiang Xiu's hand landed on the lion's body. He gently stroked the lion's mane. The lion didn't dare to move at all. Seeing that Jiang Xiu had succeeded, Zhuo Yuchen stopped screaming. Hee, this lion is quite obedient. What a good lion. After saying that, she let go of Jiang Xiu's clothes and walked forward as if nothing had happened. Let's go look at other small animals. There are many very cute ones. Our second aunt changed the topic without a trace. Jiang Xiu said, Sister Yuchen, you seem to have forgotten something? Zhuo Yuchen was very puzzled. She blinked her big eyes and said, I forgot something. What is it? I remember that there are tigers in front. Why don't we go look at the tigers? She wanted to go back on her words. Jiang Xiu said, Our bet. You have to warm me up. This fellow wasn't someone who could be fooled so easily. Zhuo Yuchen strode with her long legs and prepared to slip away. Jiang Xiu gritted his teeth and said, Sister Yuchen, if you play like this, then I might also be fooling you with the 3-year agreement. These words were so ruthless that Zhuo Yuchen stopped in her tracks. Okay, I'm willing to admit defeat. Zhuo Yuchen bit her lips that were a little pale because of the cold. However, those pink and tender lips were still sparkling like fruits. But you can't mess around. Jiang Xiu shook his head. I definitely won't. At this time, they had already arrived at Longhu's cage. Zhuo Yuchen looked around and saw that there was no one around. She urged, Then hurry up. There was panic on her face, as if she was facing death with equanimity. Jiang Xiu came to her side. Zhuo Yuchen's beautiful hair was welcomed by the wind. He couldn't help but take a deep breath. That intoxicated expression on his face was the original form of a pervert in a TV series. The surrounding temperature seemed to have improved in an instant. Zhuo Yuchen tried hard to shift her thoughts, and her gaze landed on the tiger in the zoo. Tiger, oh tiger, you're so brave and fierce. Strong body, sharp teeth, and the aura of a king of the forest. Suddenly, she forcefully closed her eyes. She felt 2 demonic hands reaching into her clothes. She had never had such intimate contact with anyone before. She was so nervous that she almost suffocated. Moreover, these 2 hands were really cold. The temperature in the capital had almost dropped below 0 for the past 2 days. She felt itchy on her neck. Jiang Xiu's heavy breathing blew hot air on her snow-white neck. She couldn't help but shrink her neck. At this moment, Zui Yuchen felt like a helpless little white rabbit that was pinned down by the claws of a tiger. No matter how she struggled, it was useless. It seemed that the best way was to play dead. She couldn't help but ask softly, "Are you done? Are you looking down on me? This is just the beginning. How can it be done so quickly? Are you done?" Her voice was full of pleading. Anyone who heard it would sympathize with her. However, Jiang Xiu was indifferent. Beast, he was simply a beast. He even pressed his hands on her lower abdomen. It was very soft and very warm. "Your hands are so cold. So let me warm you up." Zui Yuchen's cheeks were so red that they were about to bleed. Her expression became more and more unnatural. Her breathing became rapid, and her eyes became blurred. "Are you done?" In the tiger house, a tiger's forelimbs were resting on another tiger's body. They were actually doing something improper. Zui Yuchen never expected to see such an exciting scene in the zoo. It was really embarrassing. However, on second thought, could these two tigers be learning from her and Jiang Xiu? Zui Yuchen was really embarrassed. "Are you done?" She suddenly pressed down on Jiang Xiu's big hands. They had originally agreed to warm her up, but this guy's hands actually wanted to climb up unconsciously. She held them tightly and didn't let go. She said while panting, "You promised me that you would be obedient." Jiang Xiu said, "Why don't we make another bet? If I dare to touch the tiger, you will let me warm you up again." Zui Yuchen said in annoyance, "Do you think I'm stupid?" Jiang Xiu said, "The tiger may not be able to listen to the divine language. You might even win this round." This guy didn't give up and continued to persuade and tempt her. "No, you've warmed enough. Stretch out your hands." How inhumane. Aren't you embarrassed with such cold hands? Zui Yuchen seriously expressed her disdain. However, she saw Jiang Xiu's eyes fall on the two tigers. This bad guy. He didn't succeed in his own good thing, but he didn't want others to offend him. He shouted, "Hey, what are you doing? In broad daylight, in such a peaceful world, you actually do such improper things. Public morals are really degenerating day by day. Sister Yuchen, wait for me. Don't leave so quickly." Chapter 320. She came to the zoo to reminisce about her past happiness, but she didn't expect to be flirted with. She didn't have time to reminisce and walked straight to the gate, feeling like she was running away. Zui Yuchen went back to the car in one breath. After getting on the car door, she covered her face with both hands. She was too ashamed to see anyone. She would never make such a bet with him again. She lost too badly. Jiang Xiu came, opened the car door and sat in. He said, "Do you want to make another bet? Let's see if the next intersection is red or green." Zui Yuchen was about to say no, but when she heard the bet, her heart skipped a beat. She turned her face with both hands and stole a glance at Jiang Xiu. No matter how smart he was, it was impossible for him to know if the next intersection was red or green. It all depended on luck. However, after thinking about it, she still shook her head. She had a strong sense of self-protection. After being tricked once, she wouldn't be tricked again so easily. She didn't want to fall into his trap again. She shook her head and said firmly, "No." Jiang Xiu said, "It's too cold. I want to warm up." Zui Yuchen reached out and pressed a button. The heater of the car air conditioner blew out. Then she said, "If your hands are cold, you can put them here. They'll be warm in a while." His second aunt was too smart. Jiang Xiu said, "Then let's go back." Zui Yuchen pursed her lips. She found that Jiang Xiu was serious when he acted like a hooligan, but he was also serious when he was defeated. Especially when he was defeated, his serious look made people laugh. She couldn't help but smile unconsciously. She felt that she had won back 10%. It was a win if she didn't lose. She stepped on the accelerator a little proudly. Since Jiang Xiu was already married, and Zui Yuchen wanted to be with him without any status, everyone had a tacit understanding. To put it bluntly, they would be his second aunt, concubine, and concubine. They couldn't get a marriage certificate, but customs still had to follow the wedding. The Zhou family even prepared a dowry for Zui Yuchen with great fanfare. A property in the capital, an entertainment company that wasn't originally under Zui Yuchen's name, was transferred to her name. In addition, A reasonable amount of cash was given to her to send her to the Jiang family. As for the wedding, they didn't mention it. Lin Yueling still couldn't accept it. She felt like a gust of wind sweeping the fallen leaves. She couldn't react at all. Everything was settled. Lin Yueling said, "What are you going to do in the future?" Jiang Xiu said, "Wasn't this decision made by you?" Lin Yueling widened her eyes and said, "How could it be made by me? When did I make such a decision?" But after saying that, she felt helpless. This was what the Lin family and the Zhuo family wanted to see the most. She was only being pushed forward by others. Okay, it's already like this. How do you plan to tell Su? Jiang Xiu said. Why do I have to tell her? Lin Yueling said. Don't tell me you want me to tell her that you just married a concubine. Now that you have a little money, you're starting to find a mistress and marry a concubine. Stop. Jiang Xiu said. Mom, your surname is Lai, right? What does this have to do with me? From the beginning to the end, I didn't say a word. This marriage contract wasn't set by me. Am I the victim? Lin Yueling couldn't believe her ears. You're the victim? Jiang Xiu, your skin is really thick. You really dare to say that. Jiang Xiu said righteously, it's true. Lin Yueling was really angry. Yu Chen is such a beautiful woman. It's really unfair for her to be with you. Little ancestor, please forgive her. Jiang Xiu smiled. This guy also felt that he was too much of a jerk. Yu Chen can't live at home in the future, right? Lin Yueling frowned. Otherwise, our family will definitely not have a peaceful day. In my opinion, we should raise Yu Chen outside. Jiang Xiu said. Keeping a mistress in a golden house? Lin Yueling said in a bad mood. Why does it sound so bad when it comes out of your mouth? Don't tell me you want to learn from the landlord and hang the lantern high? Jiang Xiu said. Enough, Empress Dowager, is your son that kind of person? Lin Yueling said. I gave birth to you. Under Lin Yueling's gaze, Jiang Xiu felt a little guilty. Her gaze was too scary. He was thankful that she saw through his little scheme. While they were talking, the car arrived. Zhuo Yuchen was wearing a traditional red bridal dress. It was the simpler kind. Her neck and hands were full of gold necklaces and bracelets. Her face was also covered with heavy makeup. She really looked like a married girl. The person who sent the car was Zhuo Yuchen's grandfather, the head of the Zhuo family. He didn't need to send the car at all, but Jiang Xiu was such a big figure, so the old man of the Zhuo family had to send it personally. He was in his 80s, but his body was still strong. When he got out of the car, his face didn't look good. The Jiang family didn't prepare at all. They didn't even set up a banquet. What was this? How was this a wedding? Even if the Zhuo family married their daughter to someone else as a concubine, they shouldn't be so shabby. Jiang Xiu was now considered a big figure. If he dealt with it like this, it would be bad if the news spread. But no one knew that both Lin Yueling and Zhuo Yuchen wanted to be as low-key as possible. But then again, if it was during the Republic of China, marrying a second concubine was just a matter of directly bringing her into the family. However, the Zhuo family was a prestigious and wealthy family. It was too ugly. Fortunately, Jiang Xiu's attitude calmed the anger of the Zhuo family. He came to the car and squatted down. Zhuo Yuchen was carried into the Jiang family by Jiang Xiu. This showed some sincerity. Jiang Xiu carried her very lightly. It was inevitable that there would be some intimate contact, especially when Jiang Xiu's hands were supporting Zhuo Yuchen's butt. It was more plump and bouncy than Jiang Xiu had imagined. The Zhuo family and the Lin family set off firecrackers. In the sound of the firecrackers, Jiang Xiu carried the New Year's Eve to the house. There was also a photographer who took pictures of Zhuo Yuchen in the bride's red robe. It was confirmed that the granddaughter of the Zhuo family had fulfilled the marriage contract. The Lin family and the Zhuo family were united by marriage. She married the famous Jiang Luoxia as the concubine. In the circle of rich and powerful families, marrying concubines was done secretly. It was the first time that they were not afraid of being known by others. The news spread in the upper-class circle of the capital. Jiang Xiu had made it clear to her that she would be free after 3 years, and Jiang Xiu had promised not to touch her. This was equivalent to a fake marriage. But when she put on the bride's dress and was carried into the house by Jiang Xiu, There was no one else except Lin Yueling, and there was not even a banquet. A sour feeling came to her heart. She could not help crying. The matchmaker was still on the side saying things like a long and happy marriage, and having a son soon. She had worked her whole life, but she had never seen such a wedding. Fortunately, the Zhou family gave her enough money. Otherwise, she would have quit on the spot. After entering the house, not to mention food, there was not even a sip of water. Several aunts of the Lin family helped. Old Master Lin and Lin Ziqing were so happy that they could not close their mouths. In their hearts, they thought that Jiang Xiu would definitely remember them. The villa was big enough. With the help of several aunts and cousins of the Lin family, they managed to deal with the situation. Jiang Xiu carried Zui Yuchen upstairs. Lin Yueling vacated a room, put on a red beidan, put on a red double happiness, and put Zui Yuchen on the bed. Zui Yuchen said in an inaudible voice, "Thank you. I'm very heavy." Jiang Xiu shook his head. He came to the bedside and looked out. Those people were as festive as a real wedding. "You can live here for the next 2 days. When the time comes, my mother said that you will be kept as a mistress." Zui Yuchen said, "Mistress? Why?" She regretted it as soon as the words left her mouth. Of course, it was because there was already a mistress in the house. Seeing today's scene, Zui Yuchen realized that the Jiang family was actually in a difficult position. After all, they had to worry about Cheng Lingsu. Jiang Xiu said, "It's indeed a little ugly to be kept outside. It's okay. You can live here." Zui Yuchen hurriedly waved her hand. No, I said the wrong thing. I just asked casually. I don't mean anything else. I won't be able to move out in 2 days. I won't cause trouble for you." Jiang Xiu said, "It's no trouble." Zui Yuchen said, "Your wife will definitely make a fuss when she comes back. When that time comes, you'll have a headache. You'd better move out. Auntie Yueling is right. I can't cause you any more trouble." Jiang Xiu said, "She won't make a fuss." This big devil in Cheng Lingsu's eyes was just worrying that he didn't have a reason to divorce Cheng Lingsu. Jiang Xiu didn't marry Zui Yuchen just to settle the marriage contract. He also wanted to use this opportunity to divorce Cheng Lingsu. As long as Cheng Lingsu made a fuss, he would have a reason to say something. When that time came, Lin Yueling wouldn't have anything to say. Chapter 321. Our second concubine didn't know about Jiang Xiu's plan. She still naively thought that Jiang Xiu was protecting her, and was afraid of bringing trouble to Jiang Xiu. Thus, she felt very embarrassed. "Master, there's really no need." Lin Yueling came to call Jiang Xiu downstairs. When she heard Zui Yuchen's address, she almost fainted. "Master, my God, poor girl, how could you call her that?" Little did she know that all of this was old Demon Zhang's plan. Our innocent second concubine was attacked by his cold hands. It was winter. It was definitely comparable to low-voltage electric shock. Under such a lesson, how could she dare to resist? Anyway, she had never heard of any concubine daring to resist the master. "Don't stay in the room. There are so many guests outside. Let Yuchen stay in the room alone. She doesn't have a bridesmaid. Yuchen, let Lin Xiaoke and Lin Mi come up to accompany you." Lin Yueling had a smile on her face, which unexpectedly made Zui Yuchen feel as warm as spring. Jiang Xiu said to Zui Yuchen, "Then it's settled. I'll go downstairs with my mother first." When they went downstairs, Lin Yueling said softly, "What, Yuchen doesn't want to live outside?" Jiang Xiu said, "Yes." Lin Yueling was quite helpless. She sighed deeply. Yes, it's too unfair for her. But if she stays at home, Su will know about it. Lin Yueling's plan to delay it for as long as possible was definitely ruined now. However, it would be ruined sooner or later. In the afternoon, the guests left and the house became quiet. There was only one more person in the house. The most hateful thing was that Jiang Xiu quickly returned to his room and locked the door. Zui Yuchen said, "Have the guests all left?" Jiang Xiu said, "They've all left." Zui Yuchen stood in front of the French window and looked at the door of the villa. The Zhou family members all left in the car one after another. She had a feeling of being separated from the Zhou family, as if she was free. "Did you burn your foundational chapters?" Zhuo Yuchen shook her head and said, "Not yet, I can't remember. I'm also worried that I've remembered wrongly, so I didn't dare to burn." She took out the book Jiang Xiu gave her from her sleeve. "But I always carry it with me. I've never shown it to anyone." The foundational chapter that Jiang Xiu had given her was actually written in ancient Chinese. It couldn't be helped, as some words could only be understood and not spoken. It couldn't be written directly in the vernacular, so Zhuo Yuchen could only slowly comprehend them. The foundational chapter was long, and had over 1,000 words. To a god like him, this was indeed a piece of cake, but to an ordinary person it wasn't easy, not to mention that the time given was so short. "Take it slow. Have you started cultivating?" Zhuo Yuchen nodded. "I tried it myself and I feel that it's not bad. Basically, I've managed to observe the situation from the perspective of one's posture." Jiang Xiu chuckled. "Do you know what it means to judge a situation by one's appearance?" She actually nodded and said, "To strengthen one's body, to refine one's psychokinesis, to concentrate on calming one's mind, to protect one's body and spirit, to achieve the state where one's posture and will are connected, from the outside to the inside. This is what it means to judge a situation from the perspective of one's posture." Jiang Xiu's face was filled with shock. "What's wrong? Did I say something wrong?" Jiang Xiu shook his head, feeling astonished. It wasn't that what Zhuo Yuchen said was wrong, but rather that what she said was too true. Disregarding one's talent in cultivation, just this level of comprehension was enough to challenge spiritual cultivation. For those who achieved the state from the perspective of one's posture, their will would become stronger, far surpassing that of ordinary people. At that time, they would be able to sense the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. Humans would instinctively absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, and at that point, they could be considered to have stepped onto the path of cultivation. Zhuo Yuchen's physique was special, and her cultivation speed would definitely be faster than ordinary people. In addition to her shocking comprehension, Jiang Xiu felt that it was a pity for her. If she was born in the immortal martial continent, with her talent, her clan would have already nurtured her as the future clan leader. She wouldn't have to be someone else's concubine in exchange for benefits. With her current progress, perhaps in less than 3 years, she would be able to reach Jiang Xiu's original expectations in a little more than a year. The so-called judge a situation from the perspective of one's posture wasn't rare. It was just that this method was a true immortal method. The mortal world's meditation and India's yoga all followed the same principle. Cultivate more. Jiang Xiu pointed to the bowl of water on the table and said, "One day, when you can move the bowl while sitting on the bed, tell me." Zhuo Yuchen nodded. At this point, the spiritual energy in Zhuo Yuchen's body had accumulated to a certain level. At this time, the spiritual energy in her body could support her to cast some basic spells. During dinner, Zhuo Yuchen had already changed out of her bridal makeup and washed away the heavy makeup on her face. Her skin was as white as a baby's, and she sat down to eat with Jiang Xiu and Lin Yueling. "Yuchen, Auntie will be going back to Jiangnan with Jiang Xiu tomorrow. What are your plans?" Zhuo Yuchen looked at Jiang Xiu and said, "Auntie, I still have some things to deal with at the company. How about I don't go, okay?" She had thought about it. After all, her marriage with Jiang Xiu was a fake, and she didn't want to get too involved. Especially, she didn't want to have any misunderstandings or conflicts with the Chung family. This would make things difficult for Jiang Xiu. "Why don't you go with them?" Jiang Xiu was afraid that she would cause trouble there. "You haven't met my father yet. Although my parents are from the capital, I was born in Jiangnan and grew up in Jiangnan. Jiangnan is my hometown. How can you not go and see it?" Zhuo Yuchen said timidly. "It's not good for me to go, is it?" Her eyes were full of worry. She didn't want to go to Jiangnan, but she would definitely meet the Chung family in Jiangnan. How would the Chung family treat her? Why did Jiang Xiu insist that she go? Would it be good? Then let's go together. Lin Yueling was worried that Zhuo Yuchen would be disappointed. She was worried that Zhuo Yuchen would still be like this when she came to the Jiang family after living under the roof of the Zhuo family when she was young. No matter what, at least she wanted Zhuo Yuchen to feel her kindness and warmth. There's nothing wrong. That night, Zui Yuchen faced another problem. Today was her first night as a newlywed. Of course, Jiang Xiu would stay in her room. You sleep on the bed, I'll sleep on the floor. Thank you. It was getting late. Zui Yuchen turned her delicate body sideways, her back facing Jiang Xiu. She pretended to be asleep, but in fact, she couldn't calm down for a long time. From time to time, she would turn sideways to look at Jiang Xiu. Why don't I tell your wife that we're fake and that I'll leave in 3 years? She felt guilty when she thought about going to Jiangnan to face Cheng Lingsu. Jiang Xiu said, no need. Cheng Lingsu may not keep it a secret for you. If the Lin family and the Zhou family find out, who knows what will happen? The Zhou family may accuse the Lin family of cheating you, Zui Yuchen said, but this will bring you inconvenience. Jiang Xiu smiled and said, why do you think she's with me? She likes me? No, no one would like a person like me. What she covets is my power. With the power and wealth I have now, as long as her vanity is satisfied, she won't care how many women I have. She also won't leave because I have other women. If she leaves one day, it will be because I have become a pauper who runs a fruit stall. Zui Yuchen said, I heard that you were engaged to her when you were a child. Yes. Zui Yuchen could roughly feel from Jiang Xiu's words that his relationship with Cheng Lingsu was like many other marriages. It seemed that there were no feelings between them. This made Zui Yuchen less timid. However, the way she looked at Jiang Xiu gradually changed. There was some pity in her eyes. No matter how strong a person was, there would be times when he was helpless. Zui Yuchen asked, what about you? Do you like her? Jiang Xiu shook his head. Then why don't you tell me? With your power, it's not worthwhile for you to marry someone. You can totally find your own love, and find the love of your life. Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed with a trace of sadness. Even if he found the love, what could he do? He couldn't have it. As Wang Xintong said, even if he divorced Cheng Lingsu, Cheng Lingran couldn't be with him. The things that happened in his last life would never happen again. He got his parents but lost his love. This might be fate. He slowly turned around and said, it's late. Go to sleep. We have to take a plane to Jiangnan tomorrow. Yes. Zui Yuchen looked at his back. Her eyes sparkled. She didn't know what she was thinking. She slowly fell asleep. This was her first night away from home. She thought that she wouldn't be able to sleep, but she didn't expect to sleep very deeply. The next day, Zui Yuchen fled for her life. She said that there was an emergency in the company. She left the villa early in the morning. Chapter 322. Zui Yuchen returned to the company. It was early in the morning, and it was during the spring festival. There was no one in the company. She entered her office. Last time, she smashed everything inside. Now she had cleaned it up. However, the more she thought about it, the more she felt that she was at a loss. On the table, there was a photo of a couple holding a little girl's hand. It was a photo of Zui Yuchen with her biological parents when she was young. Dad, Mom, thank you. She knew that the reason why Jiang Xiu and his mother took care of her was because Lin Yueling took into account the feelings of her deceased parents. Her parents' kindness back then led to today's good karma. She came to the floor-to-ceiling window. Outside the window, cars occasionally drove by. The capital had never been so quiet. She felt that the air was free. Zui Yuchen saw a large bird flying past the window. The bird was extremely large and somewhat frightening. Its body was about 1 meter long, and its wings were nearly 2 meters wide. Its pair of golden eyes flew into the distance with a whoosh. She quickly walked a few steps and opened the window to look out. She saw the large bird shuttling between the tall buildings. Where did this big bird come from? This was a big city. Usually even small birds could not be seen, let alone such a big bird. She was quite knowledgeable about animals, but she did not seem to have such a huge wild bird. The bird's body was majestic, like a falcon. But how could an eagle appear in the city? Should we call the police? Zui Yuchen was still very responsible. Such a big bird appeared in a big city. She really had to be careful. She did not know if it was aggressive. If it was, then people would not be safe. After Lin Yueling woke up, she made breakfast. When she saw that Jiang Xiu and Zui Yuchen did not wake up at 9 o'clock, She went up to wake them up. However, she was quite happy. It would be best if they gave her a grandson. Minor repairs. Get up and eat. Otherwise, you won't be able to catch the plane. Jiang Xiu went downstairs and did not see Zui Yuchen. Sister Yuchen, did you go out? Not in the house. Jiang Xiu shook his head. He realized that Zui Yuchen might not be willing to go to Jiangnan. He sat down at the dining table and lowered his head to eat his breakfast. Forget it. Don't make things difficult for her. Lin Yuling said. Okay, then hurry up. Sun Xiaohong called me several times. Before boarding the plane, Lin Yuling called Zui Yuchen and told her to take care of herself at home alone. After hanging up the phone, she sighed helplessly and proudly. I used to want to have a daughter, but I didn't have one. Now you have given me 2 daughters-in-law. Jiang Xiu said. Why does it sound like you're scolding me? Lin Yuling said. I'm not scolding you, I'm praising you. Right now, our family isn't any worse than the rich and powerful families. Sooner or later, you'll have to open your mouth. Right now, the most important thing is to quickly give birth to a grandson for mom. She was thinking that one wasn't enough. Now that there were 2, this matter had to be settled. Just be careful. Su won't be able to accept it. Jiang Xiu smiled coldly. Whoever can't stand it can leave. Lin Yuling glared at him. Look at you. If you dare to let Su leave, I won't let you off. Jiang Xiu said. Then let Sister Yuchen leave. Lin Yuling said. That won't do either. They were all meat. No matter what choice they made, it would be wrong. Okay, this matter ends here. Let's not talk about it anymore. But I'm warning you, it's already too much for you to marry another woman. Don't make trouble for me in the future. Jiang Xiu said. Did I invite these 2 people? Spiritual cultivation was really wronged in this matter. He didn't want to marry Cheng Lingsu at all. It was Lin Yuling who forced him. He had some feelings for Zui Yuchen. The kindness from his previous life was there, and she was indeed very charming. But the problem was that it was all fake. He could only look at her but not use her. The person he really wanted to marry he couldn't. Zui Yuchen came to the Jiang family. Jiang Xiu felt that the distance between him and Cheng Lingran was getting farther and farther, and the possibility was getting lower and lower. Thinking of this, his gaze became somewhat indifferent. Lin Yuling said strangely, Mom, why do you still feel unhappy? Shouldn't he be proud of his success? Thinking of this, he was about to speak when the loud alarm suddenly sounded on the plane. Beep, beep, beep. The atmosphere in the cabin suddenly became tense. The stewardess ran over and said, Mr. Jiang, we have a situation. We received instructions from the control panel that a large number of birds have appeared in the sky. We have to make an emergency landing. Birds? What a joke. The plane's altitude was much higher than birds. But Jiang Xiu thought about it and frowned. He asked, Where are we now? The stewardess looked at the monitor and said, We're almost at Shanghai City. It's still about an hour away from Jiangnan. We need to make an emergency landing at Shanghai City. Jiang Xiu said, It's okay. Continue. The stewardess opened her eyes wide in shock. Mr. Jiang, this is not a joke. If we collide with a bird in the sky, the plane may be pierced and then cause a crash. We can make an emergency landing at Shanghai City Airport and arrange a car to go back to Hangzhou City. It won't take more than 2 hours. Jiang Xiu said, I'm going to see the birds. Don't worry, nothing will happen. The stewardess said, This? She looked at Lin Yuling for help. Of course, they knew what kind of person Jiang Xiu was, but they didn't dare to go against him. But this was not a joke on the plane. They had to listen to the captain. Lin Yuling trusted her son unconditionally. That day, she saw Jiang Xiu fly up the cliff and fight with Ji Wudao. That battle was like a battle between gods. The sky and the earth had long been conquered by people like them. Jiang Xiu said, Go inform the captain to maintain the flight route. The stewardess ran to inform the captain. The captain was an old captain who was about to retire. He was poached by Wang Xintong with a high salary. When he heard that Jiang Xiu insisted and even wanted to see the birds, he laughed. This was a plane. Why was he throwing a tantrum? He wanted to see the birds in the sky? He personally went to find Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu said, "There are a total of 6 people on the plane, including the co-pilot, medical staff, stewardess and chef. My mother is also there. Do you think I would joke about my mother's life?" The captain had no choice but to say, "All right then." He actually didn't dare to believe that there would be birds flying thousands of meters above sea level. If such a situation really happened, then the entire world's aviation would be suspended. But not long after, he saw a large area of red alert appear on the radar. Beep, beep, beep. The entire cabin was filled with the sound of the alarms. Jiang Xiu came to the control panel. The old captain's face was completely pale. He cried out, "Oh my God, how many are there?" From the display, there are at least a few hundred red dots. "What do we do about Mr. Jiang?" Jiang Xiu looked at the distant sky where the clouds were rolling. A large shadow shrouded over. It was densely packed with birds, covering dozens of miles of sky. A conservative estimate was that there were hundreds of thousands, or even millions of them. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" They were really frightened. They could hear the chirping of birds from far away. "What should we do?" Jiang Xiu said calmly, "Rush over." A sharp cold light suddenly flashed in his eyes. His gaze passed through the dense flock of birds and went straight to the middle of the flock. In the depths of the flock, a faint light kept flashing. A sword pattern kept shining over, as if there was a long sword piercing through the space on the other side. "Well, what's going on?" The flock of birds below were also pecking at the space together, as if they wanted to peck through the sky. The moment the people in the airport crossed paths with the flock of birds, they screamed involuntarily. It felt as if they had entered a bat cave, and a large group of bats rushed at them. However, the birds seemed to know that they had to dodge. When the plane rushed over, the flock of birds all moved aside. The huge plane passed through the flock of birds, and in the end, it was unscathed. Hoo-hoo! The people in the airport were all trembling with fear. It's really okay." Jiang Xiu looked back and saw the sword light from the other side of the space shining over. The few birds closest to it suddenly rushed over, crazily colliding and fighting. Feathers fell all over the sky. The whole flock of birds immediately fled in disorder. The battle soon affected everyone. There were birds constantly colliding with other birds, and they died on the spot and fell from the sky. The strangulation in the middle was even more tragic. There was a guardian bird. All the birds that rushed over were knocked down by the birds on the side. That bird seemed to be the king of the flock. Is that the sword light of heaven and earth? Chapter 323. The sword of heaven and earth contained the power of swordsmanship. Obtaining it could greatly increase a swordsman's power. The flock of birds must have known about the appearance of the sword of heaven and earth. Naturally, they would fight for it with all their might. The bird in the middle was huge and looked like the king of birds. It raised its head high and let out a high-pitched cry. It was even emitting layers of light and was very powerful. But in order to get the sword of heaven and earth, the surrounding birds ignored the king of birds and rushed over. The guardian bird on the side did not hesitate and rushed over as well. With a bang, after a fierce physical confrontation, its body fell from the sky. Even its tough skull exploded and blood flowed out. Screech! The king of birds raised its head high and opened its mouth. It was slowly swallowing the sword pattern that was coming from the sky. Soon, the sword pattern's light became brighter. Jiang Xiu sank into deep thought. He felt that it was a pity. The reason why so many birds had sealed off the area was probably because they did not want others to know about the sword of heaven and earth. From this, he could tell that the birds thought that other living beings would come and take it away. Screech! As the king of birds swallowed the sword pattern, it flapped its wings with all its might. The layers of light began to change into a bright and clear white light. The wings of the king of birds were originally very messy, but they slowly turned snow-white as if they were dyed. In just a short while, it had turned into a snow-white bird. Its size was also increasing at a visible speed. Under the direct sunlight, Mount Ming was covered in a layer of pure white light and became very mysterious. It had evolved. The plane was already far away, but the inch light was still hanging in the sky. It was emitting a bright light as it observed everything that was happening in the sky. The king of birds had noticed it as well. It turned its head to take a look, but it did not seem like it was going to stop swallowing the sword pattern. Instead, it sped up. The sword pattern was slowly being absorbed into its body, and the light that it was emitting had the sword pattern's pattern. Screech! The king of birds let out a high-pitched cry as it suddenly opened its mouth. Almost at the same time, its body began to grow at a speed visible to the naked eye. It grew to hundreds of meters, and then thousands of meters. It had become a huge creature that could blot out the sky. It swallowed all the birds within half a mile in front of it. None of them could escape this fate and became its food. There were tens of thousands of them. Then it swallowed another mouthful. Wah wah! The flock of birds flew away in fright. For a moment, the sky was filled with birds flapping their wings and fleeing. The sky was filled with incessant chirping sounds. It was different from the order before. This time it was a mess. It was like 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. However, now that they were fleeing for their lives, they only wished that they were born with 2 more wings. Among the flock of birds, a handsome young man with snow-white skin rushed out. However, there was a satisfied smile on his face as he laughed softly. Ha ha ha. Amidst the falling feathers that filled the sky, his entire body was as light as air. He flashed back and forth, so fast that he left no traces behind. His eyes swept across the world below him. Where is this place? This is Earth. This is Earth. Ha ha ha. Following which, he furrowed his brows. The spiritual energy here is really thin. Then the immortals and gods here must be very weak. Does this mean that my manner is going to rule the heavens? He looked into the distance and his gaze landed on the inch of light. His expression changed slightly. Sword pellet, but the Blade Master's aura is not here. Interesting. His figure flew toward the inch of light, which immediately trembled slightly. The corners of his mouth raised into a contemptuous smile. Lower God, sword cultivator, in front of the sword light of heaven and earth, how dare you be arrogant? However, seeing that you didn't attack me just now, I'll give you face and leave this place to you. After saying that, he led his army of birds to the east. The east was a peaceful place. He chose the east. In the cabin, Jiang Xiu's eyes suddenly flashed. The sword pellet had already returned to its divine essence. There was no expression on his face, but his heart was slightly moved. The shocking changes of heaven and earth were irreversible. He didn't even know where that person who called himself by manner came from. At this time, the stewardess came over to deliver food. Mr. Jiang, may I take the liberty to ask you a question? Jiang Xiu said. Ask. The stewardess was very puzzled, including the captain and the other staff on the plane. The stewardess said, how did Mr. Jiang know that those birds would avoid the plane? Of course, Jiang Xiu knew that. The world had changed, and the intelligence of living creatures had increased. Of course, they knew how to protect themselves. The plane had such great kinetic energy, and for the birds, it should be a monster that they had never seen before. Only monsters that didn't know fear were not afraid of death. Those that were not afraid of death could be said to have lost their nerves. For example, there were no nerves under the skin of a pit bull. It didn't feel pain even if it was bitten, so of course it wouldn't be afraid of being bitten. Isn't this very easy to understand? Jiang Xiu said. If you encounter a bird in the sky, there might be an accident. Such a large number of birds should be organized. Have you seen geese? They're quite intelligent. If you see a car driving over, they'll avoid it. If they see a plane flying over, they'll also avoid it. The stewardess was amused. Mr. Jiang, you're so smart. After saying that, she even gave Jiang Xiu a coquettish look. This stewardess was also first class. She was carefully selected by Wang Xintong. Her beauty, intelligence, and EQ were all passable. She was definitely a beauty. Wang Xintong knew Jiang Xiu well. She was such a beautiful woman, but he wasn't moved. She wouldn't give up. If a stewardess could move Jiang Xiu, then there was no need to be so hot and beautiful. Jiang Xiu said, how long until we arrive? The stewardess said, about 40 minutes. Because of the appearance of the birds, the airport in Jiang City has stopped flying. The landing should be very smooth. Mr. Jiang, old Madam Jiang, please rest. Call me if you need anything. After the stewardess left, Lin Yueling said, Brat, you better take it easy. Jiang Xiu said, Mom, am I your biological son? Lin Yueling was very firm. No, I picked you up in the latrine. The plane landed on time. Cheng Lingsu came to pick them up. She had the style of a city beauty. She drove a BMW over. Before the new year, she learned to drive because she had to go to work and school. This BMW was so new that it didn't even have a license plate. Jiang Xiu didn't care who paid for this car. Lin Yueling was a little unhappy. Su, why did you sell such a bad car? Clang, I almost fell down. Mom, can you not be so obvious about favoring one over the other? She's always lecturing me at home to be thrifty and not waste my money. Now, Cheng Lingsu bought a BMW, and it's obviously an imported one. The price of the car is conservatively more than 1 million, and she's saying that it's not good. She didn't even earn a single cent now. Cheng Lingsu held Lin Yueling's wrist and said, It's already very good. It's too ostentatious to drive a Ferrari. A BMW is more like it. Mom, why did you suddenly give me money to buy a car? Damn, spiritual cultivation was going to go crazy. And it was Lin Yueling who gave her the money. Lin Yueling said, You're so obedient. Mom is rewarding you. If you perform better this year, Mom will buy you more things. Thank you, Mom. Lin Yueling smiled very strangely. She was worried that Cheng Lingsu would make a fuss because Jiang Xiu married a second aunt. She bought a car to appease her first. Jiang Xiu snorted in his heart. Now Cheng Lingsu was living a good life. Many people coaxed and flattered her to satisfy all her vanity. So what if she didn't buy a car for her? Jiang Xiu didn't believe that she would dare to make a fuss. Seeing Cheng Lingsu driving the car, Jiang Xiu was unhappy. In his previous life, she had caused him so much trouble. In this life, he was despised by her when he was poor. However, she had gained so much from him. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept it. Do you know how to drive? If you don't, call the driver. Cheng Lingsu snorted. Don't look down on me. I got my driver's license through the proper exam. She put the car in gear and stepped on the accelerator. Lin Yueling praised. Su drives well. Even the driver at home can't compare. Of course. Cheng Lingsu had just gotten a car. It was the time when she was addicted to driving. Everywhere she went, she drove the car to the wetland villa in Jiangcheng. Jiang Xiu wasn't here, so she didn't live here alone. She stayed at her parents' house during the spring festival. However, there were people who came regularly to clean the place. It was very clean. Jiangcheng still has a sense of belonging. Lin Yueling looked around the moment she entered the house. It was her first time here. This villa was a gift from Tang Jinshan. Looking at Cheng Lingsu's happy face, Jiang Xiu couldn't wait to make things difficult for her. You had a good spring festival. Yeah, Jiang Xiu said. There's something I think I should tell you. Cheng Lingsu looked expectant. Jiang Xiu had never given her any face. Today he actually took the initiative to tell her something. She smiled and said, What do you want to say? Jiang Xiu said, I got married 2 days ago. Spiritual cultivation was stirring up trouble. Cheng Lingsu said, Zui Yuchen from Wufeng's Zua family? I know her. The Zua family is in charge of Western Guangdong. Her family is involved in politics, business, and the military. You got the help of the Zua family and the Lin family. You got the support of 2 big families in the capital. If it were me, I would do the same. Jiang Xiu felt like he had punched cotton. The smile on his face turned cold. Chapter 324. Jiang Xiu felt a deep sense of loss. Cheng Lingsu didn't even have the slightest bit of anger. In other words, Cheng Lingsu didn't have any feelings for him at all. Just as he had guessed, Cheng Lingsu valued his money and power. When he was poor, she didn't hesitate to draw a clear line with him. Her attitude was so firm. When he was in the prime of his life, she played tricks and pretended to be obedient before marrying him. In both his previous and current lives, he had long seen through Cheng Lingsu's character. It was ridiculous that he still had a trace of fantasy about her. Jiang Xiu said. Since you already know, that's for the best. If you can't accept it, we can think of a way to divorce. You have sufficient reasons now. In the past, when the conflict between the two families had just been resolved, everyone cherished this relationship. However, some time had passed and the honeymoon period was over. Now that such a thing had happened, no one could suppress Cheng Lingsu's opinions. No one had a reason to suppress them. Cheng Lingsu's beautiful eyes blinked and said with a puzzled expression, "Divorce? Why would I want a divorce? I can accept it." She reached for the yogurt on the table and drank with a straw. She even asked, "Do you want it?" Jiang Xiu coldly replied, "No." It was probably harder than killing Cheng Lingsu to give up the glory and wealth in her hands. Seeing Jiang Xiu walk away, Cheng Lingsu stuck her tongue out at Jiang Xiu and made a face. Then, she drank her yogurt and went to find Lin Yueling. At this time, Lin Yueling walked around the villa and said, "This place is bigger than the capital. It's more comfortable." Cheng Lingsu said, "This place has a total of 3 floors. The indoor area is more than 700 square meters. Including the garden and swimming pool outside, it's more than 1,500 square meters. It's very big." "Mom, there's nothing at home. I'll take you to my house. Mom still misses you. There's a mahjong game at home. I remember that you used to like playing," Lin Yueling heard and said. "Okay, I haven't played for many years." Lin Yueling shouted at Jiang Xiu and followed Cheng Lingsu out. Cheng Lingsu ran to the car with light steps. Jiang Xiu coldly watched Cheng Lingsu tricking Lin Yueling away and muttered, "Bootlicker." Not long after they left, Jiang Xiu's phone rang. It was a call from Wang Xintong. Skyline Biology Group is progressing well. In just 3 months, they've cultivated 3 demigods. Jiang Xiu said, "Are they using biology or martial arts?" Wang Xintong said, "Biology. There are many Chinese herbs with strong medicinal properties in the mountains. According to the methods left behind by Bodhi Biogenetics, the success rate is very high. They have developed many drugs that can increase strength in the short term, and also drugs that can increase strength slowly in the long term. However, according to the information left behind by Bodhi Biogenetics, it's called elixir." Jiang Xiu said, "Of course it's elixir." In reality, the development of medicine in the Skyline Biological Group was similar to the concocting of pills in the immortal Martial Continent. However, the creatures here were different from those in the Skyline Biological Group. In other words, the so-called pill recipes were different. Jiang Xiu believed that their methods should be the same. And at his level, ordinary pills would not be effective. Only strange fruits or other things that contained a large amount of spiritual energy could be used. The heaven and earth sword light he encountered today belonged to this category. Wang Xintong said, "There are also many biological groups in the country that are developing quite well. Because they have more research and development talents than us, they are going in a different direction. They are focusing on genes." Jiang Xiu said, "What about our genes?" Wang Xintong said, "I asked Mr. Needlemu. He said that the information that Bodhi Biogenetics spent 100 years to collect was all burned by you." Jiang Xiu remembered that there was such a thing. At that time, it was the will of the heavens. However, now that the world had changed, the heavens had allowed it all to be burned. Wang Xintong continued, "Are we going to develop in this direction too? In foreign countries, biological groups are rising very quickly. Their research in this area has achieved very good results." Jiang Xiu pondered for a moment and said, "You can decide on this matter." The people on Earth were not a cultivation civilization, but their intelligence was definitely not low. Moreover, they were very innovative and had a spirit of research. The inventions of the internet and communication were evidence. If he let Wang Xintong do it, she would not be affected by his thoughts. If it were him, he would instinctively bring over the methods of the immortal Martial Continent. In addition, there is one more important thing. Wang Xintong said, "Not long ago, I received news from the military that a beast tide broke out in Liaodong again. This time, it was more serious than the last time. Many cities were attacked, especially City Ha, which was surrounded by beasts." In Jiang Xiu's mind, he suddenly thought of the mountain that had suddenly emerged from the ground and was punished by the heavens. The situation is very chaotic. City Ha has become a battlefield. Many people have died. I saw the aerial photos. It is simply a disaster for human beings. Now there are more beasts than people in City Ha. The news can't be suppressed. Once it gets out, it will cause a panic in China, no, the whole world. Jiang Xiu said, they are occupying land. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that there is something they want on that mountain. Didn't the military adjust the defense line? They should be able to control it. Wang Xintong said helplessly, humans are very strange animals. At first, they were scared to death. Now many underground forces, martial arts families, and major biological groups have sent people to sneak into City Ha to hunt beasts. Jiang Xiu said, humans are like all living things. They have very high intelligence and adaptability. Of course, they won't let go of such a good opportunity to practice and improve their strength. Let our people go too, Wang Xintong said. I have already sent people over. The original people of Skyline Biology Group, the Wang family, the Long family, and the Gu family have all been transferred over. Jiang Xiu said, no family. They are all from Skyline Biology. Oh. Wang Xintong understood what Jiang Xiu meant. He wanted to mold these people into a group and make them be more loyal to Skyline Biology Group than to their own families. This was the establishment of a sense of honor as a team. With Jiang Xiu, the spiritual leader, it was not difficult to nurture them. I also set up a level, Jiang Xiu said. Get to the main point. Wang Xintong said. Okay, I'll get to the main point. Congratulations, you have another wife. However, I guess you won't be happy because you still can't marry the person you want. Beep, beep, beep. Jiang Xiu had already hung up. He hung up on me again. Wang Xintong thought to herself. If you marry someone you have no feelings for, then marry me too. Do you want me to be your maid for the rest of my life? Even if I am a maid, I should at least be a concubine. The explosion in City Ha and the appearance of Bai Zhuang made Jiang Xiu feel a little urgent. He had a desire to improve his strength, but it was too slow to ascend from a lower god to a higher god and wait for natural awakening. Although the cultivation conditions here had improved, it was still too slow for a god. If he wanted to make real progress, he would need heavenly treasures or things with sufficient spiritual power. No matter what, Jiang Xiu had to cultivate first. In Shishu Mountain, a thick fog appeared out of thin air. This fog had shrouded the mountain for a full month. Many people thought it was a strange sight. The roads around the mountain were cut off because of this. It was not until today that the fog faded. In the sky, an ancient palace could be vaguely seen. This made many people film it and post it on the internet. In the next few days, the fog dissipated and the palace disappeared. Below the fog was the famous sword palace of Shishu. At this moment, many people gathered at the entrance of a cave. The door of the cave, which had been closed for more than 10 years, was finally going to open today. It should be time. Did you remember the wrong date? One of the old men gritted his teeth and said, no, it's today. In order to wait for this day, I have been counting the days every day. Song Er's death is just waiting for the ancestor to come out and avenge him. Jiang Luoxia, it's time for you to die. Creak, the dust-covered door slowly opened. Because too much time had passed, dust constantly drifted down from the door. Behind the door, a figure slowly walked out. The people waiting outside all knelt down excitedly. Greetings, ancestor. Chapter 325. With just one step, the figure stepped out of the cave and stood in the middle of the field. His black hair hung down and his long robe fluttered in the wind. His entire being was filled with the aura of an immortal. His slender and neat sword fingers casually drew a line in the air. The sound of a sword rang out from the cave behind him, and a white, cold sword light shot out. The sword light seemed to have a mind of its own as it landed in front of the person's feet. The person casually took a step forward and stepped on the sword light. At this moment, the crowd could see clearly that there was a long sword within the sword light. The person stepped on the sword, and the long sword slowly rose into the air. Oh my God! Oh my God! Everyone present cried out involuntarily. They were so shocked that their eyes were about to pop out. The scene in front of them was too shocking, and the shock continued. The long sword continued to rise, from a meter above the ground to more than 10 meters above the ground. Then with a whoosh it directly shot into the sky. The person and the sword turned into a dazzling brilliance, circled around the sky, and rushed back from the clouds. Shocked, really shocked. Sword flight. This is the legendary sword flight. The art of a sword immortal. The art of a sword immortal. In the western Shu Mountain, the legend of a sword immortal had been passed down for more than 2,000 years. However, no one had ever seen it with their own eyes. But now a real sword immortal had appeared in front of them. Seeing the Grand Elder return on his sword and land on the ground, the immortal aura made people's hearts surge. Grand Elder, you really did it, really did it? The person who was addressed as the Grand Elder was none other than the legend of the Hua Nation, the representative of the Hua Nation's martial arts world 60 years ago, Si Wuxia. He was also very excited. Yes, it's done. I've finally achieved the sword will that connects all things, and I've achieved sword flight. There seemed to be sword light flashing around him all the time. The people around him did not dare to get close, afraid that they would be accidentally injured by the sword light. Congratulations, Grand Elder, congratulations. Si Wuxia raised his head and laughed loudly. His eyes flashed with lightning, and he was in high spirits. Looking at him carefully, his skin was like white jade, and the flesh under his skin seemed to be emitting light. His whole person was like a dream. Ancestor, may I ask, what realm have you reached now? Si Wuxia said. 500 years of being an earth immortal is already a thing of the past. I've already stepped onto the golden core Tao. Above, I'm connected to the heavenly dipper. Below, I'm connected to the earthly fiends. I'm aware of the changes of the heavens and earth. They all looked at each other in dismay. They didn't understand at all, as if they were listening to a book. However, this did not stop them from feeling shocked. 500 years of being an earth immortal was a thing of the past. In other words, the patriarch was not just an immortal, but an existence of a higher level than an immortal. When he survived the nuclear bomb, the outside world thought that the patriarch was just a demigod. Little did they know that he was already an immortal at that time. Only immortals could survive such nuclear fusion. How could a demigod survive? At that time, he was an existence that even nuclear bombs could not threaten. Now that he had taken another step forward, what else on earth could threaten him? Forefather is mighty. There's hope for Tsong, Er's revenge. Si Wuxia's gaze swept across the crowd. Revenge? What revenge? Could it be that someone dares to cause trouble for the West Shu Sword Palace? Patriarch, you must avenge Tsong Er. One of the elders fell to his knees. His hair was already white, but he still had tears and snot running down his face. Tsong Er, are you talking about that little child with good potential? Yes, he's the child that you saw before you went into seclusion more than 10 years ago. You said that he would become a demigod, but he was killed by someone. Si Wuxia was shocked. According to the time, the child was in his 20s. A demigod in his 20s was a talent that was hard to come by in 100 years. This proved that his original judgment was correct. This child was extremely talented. If he progressed smoothly, he would be able to inherit the mantle in the future. But now he was killed. How dare you? Si Wuxia was furious. Everyone present trembled. Who killed him? The elder who was kneeling and crying said. It was Jiang Luoxia. He's a powerful cultivator who emerged recently. Tsong Er had a conflict with him in the Ji family. Tsong Er only offended him. Tsong Er knelt and begged for mercy. I even mentioned the patriarch, but he killed Tsong Er without a care. Si Wuxia said, Jiang Luoxia? Yes, this person emerged very suddenly. He's extremely powerful. We don't dare to seek revenge on him. We can only hope that the patriarch will come out of seclusion and uphold justice. This person is now known as the strongest cultivator in China. He killed Ji Wudao and destroyed the Heaven sect. Si Wuxia said, God? If it was before the breakthrough, I might have been afraid of him. But now, how is he any different from an ordinary person? It was around dinner time. Cheng Lingsu returned home. When they were alone, Jiang Xiu's face was extremely cold. Cheng Lingsu was used to it. Jiang Xiu, my parents asked me to come and pick you up. Jiang Xiu was about to speak when the quick-witted Cheng Lingsu added, Mother-in-law and father-in-law are already here. Since the beginning of the new year, Jiang Xiu had not visited his father-in-law's house to give his New Year's greetings. Jiang Xiu naturally would not give Cheng Lingsu face. However, Lin Yueling and Jiang Yi were both going. If he did not go, Cheng Lingsu would not be able to do anything to him. However, Lin Yueling and Jiang Yi would teach him a lesson. Jiang Xiu's face was cold. He could only say, okay. Cheng Lingsu said. Then hurry up. It's getting late. I'll wait for you in the car. Nowadays, Su would drive around whenever she had nothing to do. Jiang Xiu went to take a shower. He took his time and appeared at the parking lot after about 10 minutes. Does your sister know that I married a second wife? Cheng Lingsu said. She doesn't know, right? Why? Are you afraid of my sister? Well, you've been very obedient to her since you were young. If she knew that you married a second wife, she would definitely not let you off. Jiang Xiu felt that his throat was a little dry. Don't worry, I won't say anything. Jiang Xiu glanced at her. Cheng Lingsu's perfect face was expressionless. It's best if you don't say anything. Also, you'd better not mention me in front of her. Cheng Lingsu could not help but look back at Jiang Xiu. She could not understand what Jiang Xiu meant. His face was also indifferent as usual. If there was anyone in the Cheng family that Jiang Xiu had a slight favorable impression of, it should be his sister. She used to treat him badly, and his mother also disliked her. Although his father did not show it on the surface, he did not think much of him in his heart. Only his sister was sincere to him. Okay, I won't say anything if she doesn't ask. After saying that, Su said, the thing in the bag on the side is yours. What? Su said. You'll know when you open it. Jiang Xiu picked it up. It was quite heavy. When he opened it, he saw that it was a shirt. It was the shirt that he had asked her to wash after he dirtied it. What do you mean? Cheng Lingsu said. I've washed it for you. She had only found it after shopping all over the capital and Jiangnan. In the future, I'll help you wash all your clothes. Jiang Xiu was a little puzzled. Why did she suddenly become so proactive? Usually, she was like a spinning top and would not move unless he whipped or hit her. He thought, could it be that Zui Yuchen's appearance made her feel threatened? I don't like to wash it in the washing machine. I'll wash it by hand. The car was driven very steadily. Cheng Lingsu was indeed not bad in this aspect. Compared to other girls, she was not only better in terms of appearance, but also more outstanding in terms of her mentality. Her psychological quality was very good, and she did not panic at all on the road. The car drove into a new neighborhood in the city. Their original home had been sold, and the place they lived in was old. This building was developed by the program, and they kept the best one. The villa in the neighborhood was not as quiet as the other villas, nor was it as noisy as the other neighborhoods. It was just right. As soon as the car stopped, something was thrown down from upstairs. A beautiful girl stood on the balcony and smiled at them. You two are so slow. I'm starving. Who else could this girl be but Cheng Lingran? Seeing her, Jiang Xiu's gaze was deeply attracted. He did not know if it was because of their relationship in their previous life, or if it was because of the saying, it's better to not have it. The more you can't get something, the more fascinating it was. Sister. Cheng Lingran said, coming quickly. She also turned and went into the room, stomping down the stairs. That pair of little ancestors is finally here. Sun Xiaohong opened the door. Minor repairs are here. Coming quickly. Su's car is always frightening. Cheng Hanlin also came out from inside. He was holding a crutch in his hand and could basically walk normally. After entering the house, Cheng Lingran secretly said, Brat, did you buy me a fake necklace? Still pretending? I saw a real one on the internet. It's priced at 500 million euros. Jiang Xiu said, Sister. What sister? You're really shameless. I treated you so well, but you bought a fake to fool me. Cheng Lingran looked very angry. She looked like she was going to teach Jiang Xiu a lesson. What about the necklace? I threw it away in a fit of anger. Jiang Xiu. Even though his spiritual cultivation assets were amazing and he did not care about money, when he heard this, his heart was bleeding. Chapter 326. Thus Jiang Xiu said honestly, Sister Lingran, I was wrong. Cheng Lingran said, It's good that you know you were wrong. Jiang Xiu said, Sister, can I ask where you threw the necklace? Cheng Lingran smiled sweetly. I'm not telling you. Jiang Xiu felt that her smile was a little strange. Cheng Lingran was not a snobbish person, so there was no reason for her to dislike whether his gift was real or fake. Cheng Lingran said, Son-in-law, this is your first time coming here empty-handed. You're really something. So is Su. She's not sensible at all. So she's angry that I don't care about the Cheng family, so she's teaching me a lesson. She's still so good at persuading people. Jiang Xiu said, You really threw the necklace away? Cheng Lingran smiled and said, Yes, I threw it in the trash can outside. Are you going to run over and find it for me now? Jiang Xiu said, Anyway, it's fake. So what if you threw it away? Cheng Lingran stopped smiling and said angrily, You're not sincere at all. After saying that, she quickly walked into the kitchen to help. Jiang Xiu looked at her good back and felt happy. Women are really. Perhaps because Cheng Lingran was older than them, she was very good at taking care of people. Su basically did not do any housework. It could be said that she really did not do any housework. Cheng Lingran knew how to do any housework, so she was very gentle when taking care of Jiang Xiu after their marriage in the previous life. The weather in Jiang City was warm, and the sun was shining brightly. The family sat in the courtyard and chatted. There were not many people in the family. There were only 7 people in total, but the laughter was endless. The two families had reconciled and cherished each other even more. There was no end to talking about the past. Everyone was happy and harmonious. Jiang Xiu felt as if he had returned to the happiest time of his childhood. However, his only regret was that it would have been perfect if he had married Cheng Lingran instead of Cheng Lingsu. Have some fruit. Cheng Lingran cut a few slices of orange and brought them over. Here. Cheng Lingsu was the first to take it, but she handed it to Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu looked at her, and the look in his eyes was very obvious. Cheng Lingsu tilted her head and smiled, looking cute and naughty. Were they going to pretend to be in love in front of the elders? Do you care about hygiene? Are your hands clean? Cheng Lingsu's fair fingers were even more dazzling under the sunlight, and her sparkling fingernails were even more dazzling. Everyone else would go crazy with joy if a beauty was brought over to you. Yet you still despise her? Although he said that, he still reached out and took it. Cheng Lingsu said coquettishly, Will it taste better this way? Your hands are seasoning. It'll taste better if you take it off. You two are still young. Cheng Lingran carried the fruit plate to the elders. When she came to her mother, Cheng Lingran said, Mom, do you feel that minor repairs in Su are a little strange? Sun Xiaohong said, What's wrong? Cheng Lingran said, When young people are in love, especially newlyweds, they can't wait to stick together every day. Minor repairs and Su don't look like each other at all. Look at them sitting there. There's enough space for one person to sit between them. They haven't done anything intimate since they met. Sun Xiaohong looked at them. She didn't think that there was anything wrong with Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingsu, but Jiang Xiu was now a big shot and was putting on airs. Jiang Xiu really had the powerful aura of a leader. It's nothing. Minor repairs has a cold personality, and always has a cold expression on his face. He's not good at expressing his feelings. Cheng Lingran looked confused. Mom, are we talking about the same person? When Jiang Xiu was with her, he was very outgoing and even a little naughty. There wasn't much difference from before, and he would even sell her gifts and be so considerate. Of course. Sun Xiaohong was still worried that Jiang Xiu would bear a grudge against her because of her prejudice against him. Now many of her friends knew that her daughter was married to Mr. Jiang, and they were begging her to build a relationship. However, she didn't dare to overstep her boundaries because of Jiang Xiu's aura. At the same time, she felt that no matter what, she was his mother-in-law. From this point of view, shouldn't he respect her a little? But she still didn't dare to. Your Aunt Yueling said that Jiang Xiu is also like this at home. He doesn't talk much and his face is cold. It's as if everyone owes him money. According to your Aunt Yueling, he needs to be taught a lesson. Cheng Lingran couldn't help but laugh. Yes, he does need to be taught a lesson. According to Cheng Lingran's past experience, he would be terrified as soon as she taught him a lesson. On the other side, Cheng Hanlin and Jiang Yi were playing Go. Cheng Hanlin was no match for them in the past, and now he was even less of a match. Jiang Yi played Go most of the time in prison. After more than 10 years, his Go skills were enough to be a professional Go player. Jiang Xiu said, "I'm going out tomorrow." Jiang Yi said, "You just came back. What's the matter?" Jiang Xiu nodded. "It's not a small matter." Jiang Yi looked at his son. With Jiang Xiu's current status, it must be a big matter if he said such a thing. And these days he had heard a lot of news. "Where are you going?" Jiang Xiu said, "Liaodong's Ha City." That place could be called a desolate city. There were more beasts than people hiding there. Now those who knew the situation there called it a fallen area. Jiang Xiu didn't want to go there to kill beasts and level up. He didn't want to go there. He wanted to know what secrets were hidden in that mountain that had emerged from the ground. With the heavenly punishment and the gathering of beasts, there must be a secret hidden in that mountain. If he could obtain a heavenly treasure, it would be of great help to his cultivation. Jiang Yi said, "I also heard some things. That place has already been marked out as a safe zone. You have to be careful when you go." At the banquet, Cheng Lingsu couldn't sit still after sitting for a while. People who didn't like wine definitely couldn't sit still at the table. She and Cheng Lingran said that they were going to watch a movie. Lin Yueling asked Jiang Xiu to accompany the two sisters. After leaving the house, Cheng Lingran confidently pressed the key of the car. The car beeped. Cheng Lingran happily ran to the front passenger seat. She asked her sister about her driving skills from time to time. She didn't have a driver's license yet. Jiang Xiu was left out in the back seat. That night, Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling went back to the house arranged by the city government. Only Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingsu were at home. Cheng Lingsu, who was left alone, was miserable. She had to clean the room and was tidied up by Jiang Xiu. Cheng Lingsu pulled out a suitcase and helped Jiang Xiu pack his clothes into it. "How long will you be gone for?" Jiang Xiu said. "Not necessarily. It's very cold in Harbin. Bring more clothes to change into." In the end, Cheng Lingsu packed 2 big suitcases for Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu said, "Do you think I'm an immigrant?" Cheng Lingsu had to take out the clothes again. She whispered, "How long will you be gone for?" "You won't tell me." "Of course, I'll pack more clothes for you," she said. "Then bring 1 less suitcase." "What time is your flight tomorrow?" Harbin was completely paralyzed. Jiang Xiu had to go to Liaodong Airport first, and then take a car to the border of Harbin. It was not easy to enter directly, so he rented a military jeep at the border. The last time Nangong Ko brought him to this shop, the business here was even better than before the beast tide. Many people rented cars, and most of them never returned. Second-hand cars were basically sold out, and the deposit had to be increased again and again. He threw the suitcase Cheng Lingsu had prepared into the back seat and drove into Harbin. The boss of the rental car reminded him, "There are a lot of mercenaries and beasts in there, but the most difficult thing is not the pressure they bring you. The biggest problem is the food. The things in there are very expensive. Not only is it expensive, you can't buy food even if you have the money. I advise you to bring more dry food in." In the depths of Harbin, a young girl was standing on a 20-story abandoned building. In front of her was a messy street. From her position, she could see 3 main roads. The young girl was very beautiful. Her skin was white, and her eyes were dark. However, she was holding a dagger in her hand, which was stained with blood. No one dared to approach her. According to the information, there are 3 monsters nearby. If Jiang Xiu saw her, he would be shocked. It was Miss Nangong Ko, who knew him very well. After her family found out that she had the psychic emergence ability, she received training. During this period she made rapid progress. When the animal tide broke out in Harbin before the new year, she came here for hellish special training. She was now a senior warrior, and it was easy for her to deal with 1 or 2 monsters. Someone dares to enter Harbin again. From afar, she saw a military jeep enter the main road of Harbin. The car was driving recklessly. The sound of the engine came from afar, and the smoke was billowing. Nangong Kaur couldn't help but shake her head and say, "What a newbie." Chapter 327. A man in his 30s was standing next to the girl. He had a pair of binoculars hanging in front of his chest, and he picked it up to take a look. Of course, he couldn't see the driver's face clearly, but he could see how many people were inside the car. He said in surprise, "It's so strange. How come there's only one person, and he looks like an Asian?" Nangong Kaur, who was standing next to him, thought for a while and said, "It's really strange. Remember the license plate?" Those who entered Harbin were either martial cultivators or mercenaries. Of course, there were also government soldiers. Their purpose was to save people, while most of the martial cultivators and mercenaries came here to cultivate. The big biological groups even used Harbin as a test area to evaluate the strength and level of the cultivators. It was really hard to figure out the purpose of a single person entering Harbin. Nangong Kaur swung the dagger in her hand, and the dagger in her gloved hand emitted a dazzling cold light. The dagger was extremely sharp, and if she wasn't careful enough, she might injure herself, but she still played with it as she pleased. Her dagger was made with special materials and techniques. Even bullets could easily penetrate the body of a wild beast, but this dagger could easily cut open a wound. It was definitely worthy of being called a divine weapon. Now the biological groups called it a divine weapon. "Miss, do you want to capture that brat? We're here to gain experience. What's the point of snatching a newbie? If you have the ability, go and snatch from other biological groups," Nangong Kaur said disdainfully. "Let's hurry up and kill the 3 monsters nearby," the man with the binoculars said. "Hey, that guy is really a newbie. He rushed directly to the city center. He really doesn't want to live anymore." The closer they got to the city center, the more beasts there were and the stronger they were. There were even rumors that the king of beasts was in the city center. Don't worry about him. It was Jiang Xiu who was in the car. After he came in, he completely ignored the beasts and all kinds of martial cultivators and mercenaries, and went straight to the big mountain in the city center. Of course, he wasn't familiar with the roads in Harbin, so he turned on the GPS, but it was a problem. The city was seriously damaged, and many roads were blocked by collapsed buildings that were dozens of stories high. Jiang Xiu didn't go crazy, but the GPS went crazy first. After entering Harbin, there was no cell phone signal. Other than being used for illumination, the cell phone was basically used as a brick. The major corporations and mercenaries all used their special communicators to contact each other. Do you need to walk? The weather outside was very cold, and the distance was very far. The most troublesome thing was that Jiang Xiu was carrying luggage and food. If they were to walk there, it would be a lot of suffering. Let's take another turn. Jiang Xiu was very diligent in cultivation. That was because he was a cultivation maniac. As for other aspects, he could only shake his head. Seeing a relatively flat land, he stepped on the accelerator and rushed over. According to his guess, since so many people had entered Harbin, there must be a road that cars could drive in. More than 500 meters ahead, there was a 3-story building that had collapsed. There was even a moving advertisement hanging below it. A tall man was holding a huge rock with both hands, his eyes aimed at the car that was speeding towards him. "Go away." The huge rock was thrown down by him. Jiang Xiu saw a huge rock falling from the sky in front of him. He hurriedly stepped on the brakes. The tires rubbed against the ground fiercely, emitting a pungent burnt smell. There was a loud bang. The rock was more than 1 meter high, and it directly smashed a hole in the ground. The car couldn't avoid it and hit the rock with a bang. The image of Cheng Lingsu driving appeared in Jiang Xiu's mind for no reason. He thought to himself, could it be that my driving skills are not as good as hers? Missed. The crowd on the roof jumped down from the ruins and walked towards the car. There were 5 people in a row, both men and women. The one who threw the rock was a young man with a crew cut. He was more than 1.9 meters tall, and he was much bigger than the girl beside him. He reached out and pulled the car door directly. He reached in to grab the food. The boy beside him asked, "Do you have water?" He saw mineral water, picked up a bottle, and threw it over, completely ignoring Jiang Xiu's existence. He saw bread and directly tore it open and ate it. "Is the guy who drove the car dead?" A girl with a cold face inside asked. "Who cares? He drove so arrogantly on the main road. Even if we don't do anything, he will die sooner or later. It's better to contribute to us." The young man drank a mouthful of water and handed it to the girl. He took the food and prepared to leave. "Hey!" The sudden voice stopped them. The 5 people turned around and saw Jiang Xiu safe and sound coming down from the driver's seat. "Are you going to leave just like that?" "Hey, a bit interesting. There's no injury at all." Sure enough, those who enter Harbin are not ordinary people. The young man said, "Otherwise, what do you want?" Jiang Xiu said, "Leave the thing or leave your life." Haha. The young man laughed. "You're so arrogant. Hurry up and get out of here. This is a fallen area. No one can stop you if you kill people here." Yes. Jiang Xiu suddenly moved. His body flashed, and at the same time he kicked out. So fast. The young man's equipment was not cheap. Biological Group's equipment was one of their main sources of income. The clothes they wore were specially made. Even the melon seeds of monsters could not tear them. Their defense was much better than bulletproof vests. Of course, the price was much higher. Bang! Jiang Xiu kicked the young man's chest. The young man flew out like a cannonball. The people around were shocked. This strength was probably that of a senior warrior. Bang! The young man fell heavily on the ground and rolled for 5 or 6 meters before stopping. Kong Jin. Jiang Xiu did not tear his clothes, but the strong impact alone was enough to break his bones and cause internal bleeding. He died in an instant. The members of the robbery team turned pale. Their hearts sank. They kicked a steel plate. The big guy put the box of food and water on the ground. "Our things belong to Pantheon. Let's stop here." With one kick, Kong Jin flew out. This speed and strength were at least that of a senior warrior. But to kill Kong Jin with one kick, this strength was no longer at the level of a warrior. The cold-looking girl had a watch on her hand. It was an energy detector. It could detect the strength of Jiang Xiu's attack. At this moment, her watch vibrated. It was an alarm, telling them to get away from the opponent quickly. It was obvious that the remaining 4 of them were no match for him. She secretly glanced at it, and the cold sweat on her forehead almost dripped down. Over 10,000 in bright red words. Combat strength, 10082. Even the director of Pantheon creatures in charge of Harbin could not do this. Over 10,000 was so far away for them. "I'm sorry." The cold-looking girl bowed her head and apologized. Living a hellish life in Harbin, she had almost abandoned all ideas except survival. At this moment, she realized that she wanted to kill Kong Jin and steal his food. They had nothing to say about Kong Jin's death. "Move the things back." The big man did not dare to disobey. He hurriedly moved the things back to Jiang Xiu's car, and then consciously moved the big stone on the road away. Jiang Xiu smiled coldly, sat in the car, and drove away. Although the back door was pulled down and the front of the car was crooked, it did not affect the normal driving of the car at all. Looking at the car flying away, the big man and the girl were stunned. After a while, the big man said, "Who is he?" "I don't know. Our instructor is no match for him. Look, over 10,000 combat strength. My God." They felt very lucky. If Jiang Xiu wanted to kill them, it would be easy. Bury Kong Jin. After driving for more than 10 minutes, Jiang Xiu saw the sign of the government army on the roadside. Seeing their military uniforms, he suddenly felt a sense of familiarity. Several soldiers came over to check Jiang Xiu's ID. "What are you doing here? Don't tell me you are also here to experience life." The soldier was quite honest. Jiang Xiu said, "Why? Is it forbidden to enter?" "Not really. It's very dangerous inside, but you are free to go in if you want." He pointed at the relief battle. "Do you see that group of people? They are the children of rich families who come here to play. There are also people from the biological group leading the group. The cost is frighteningly high." Jiang Xiu was speechless. There was such a way to make money. Hey handsome, are you coming? We still have one more place. A person who looked like a tour guide. Behind him were several people in camouflage and carrying weapons. Jiang Xiu said. I want to see the mountain that emerged from the ground. Then you have to follow the group even more. We are going there. Jiang Xiu was also worried about how to get there. Since there was a tour guide, he would follow the tour guide. Chapter 328. In the supply station, there was a woman who looked like a young lady. She was probably in her 20s. Seeing that the tour guide was still trying to recruit people, she frowned. What's wrong? You still want to recruit people? Didn't I pay enough? The tour guide, Old Chun, said. We'll pick one up on the way. It's different from traveling outside. It's good to have more people. Good. The woman snorted. This is the first time I've heard of traveling. It's good to have more people in a tour group. You only have so few people and you already have to protect so many of us. If you add one more, the service ratio will be less than 1 to 3. Do you think I'm stupid? We can't take this person with us. Old Chun was a little troubled. Well, I already promised him, Jiang Xiu said. I can take care of myself. I don't need to be protected. Old Chun also felt that Jiang Xiu should have some skills when he came to the supply station alone. However, the woman wasn't easy to talk to. She said to the person beside her, Ji Xiang, measure his combat strength. The man used his watch to measure Jiang Xiu. Overall score, 73. This was a reconnaissance device produced in America. Originally, it was used by the military. However, America was a relatively open country, so it was quickly popularized. The leaders of that country believed that it was necessary to popularize it, so some domestic financial groups bought it from America. It could measure a person's muscle strength, nerve reflex speed, overall heat index, and some genetic calculations. It could estimate a person's combat strength. Not only could it be used to measure humans, but it could also be used on cats and dogs. In other words, it could also be used to measure wild animals. 73. Is this what you mean by being able to take care of yourself and not needing protection? A single digit was an ordinary person. A double digit was a low-level warrior. A triple digit was an intermediate warrior. A triple digit was an advanced warrior. Of course, this was a rough estimate. It wouldn't be 100% accurate, but it wasn't far off. The error wouldn't be more than 10%. Jiang Xiu didn't know about this kind of advanced technology, nor did he understand what the tour guide was talking about. With this kind of combat strength, it's not a problem in the periphery of Harbin. But in the city center, especially in the direction of Gu Mountain, there are a lot of exotic beasts gathered there. Can he deal with them? The tour guide, Old Chun, was a little troubled. Indeed, it was impossible for a beginner warrior to deal with a large group of exotic beasts. But if Jiang Xiu was so strong, he wouldn't need them. Miss Li, you've already brought so many bodyguards. In fact, bringing one more person is really nothing. Old Chun still wanted to do this business. In the past, business was still good, but since the situation here deteriorated, fewer and fewer tourists dared to come here. Their business was about to collapse. Not only that, as a large number of exotic beasts entered the market, the risk factor would increase exponentially. They had originally planned to wash their hands of this business, but there were some internal disagreements. Some people weren't willing to give up, and in the end they came to a consensus and decided to do the last order. Do us a favor. We're also risking our lives. The person surnamed Li looked at the tour guide. She was also someone who could be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. She said, I can let him follow, but I don't like people who talk too much. Tell him to keep his mouth shut on the way. The tour guide Chen was overjoyed. Okay. He definitely won't disturb you. After negotiating with the big employer, the tour guide, Chen, charged Jiang Xiu. Brother, if you want to go on a tour, it's not cheap. 100,000 yuan non-negotiable. The price of losing one's head wasn't high. In the 90s, it was almost this price for illegal immigration. Jiang Xiu didn't say anything and swiped his card. Okay, brother, I promise you that you'll go and come back safely. It'll be exciting and exciting. Nothing bad will happen. After receiving the money, the tour guide Chun was full of smiles. After this trip, he would leave Harbin and live the rest of his life leisurely. The big employer surnamedly said, "You're bringing such a big suitcase. Do you really think you're traveling and can stay in a hotel?" The people around couldn't help but laugh. The tour guide Chun said, "Little brother, what's in your suitcase?" Jiang Xiu said, "A change of clothes and food and drinks." The tour guide Chun said, "That's not necessary. Let's be quick. It'll only take a day to go back and forth. It's not worthwhile to bring clothes and so much food. Just pack a backpack and stuff some noodles and water. Leave the things at the supply station." Jiang Xiu didn't expect the situation here to be so bad. He nodded, but he wouldn't come out so soon, so he brought more dry food and instant noodles. "Are you all ready? Let's go." Jiang Xiu and his group got into the car arranged by the tour guide and headed inside. The driver was very familiar with the roads and took the safest route. "Brother, what's your name?" "Jiang Xiu." The tour guide Chun had a brother sitting on the back of the car. Another brother opened the way in front and another stayed behind. The division of labor was very meticulous and they cooperated very well. "Brother Jiangge, are you here to broaden your horizons?" "You can say that." Compared to the arrogant employer, the tour guide preferred to chat with Jiang Xiu. "It's very unsafe inside. The center of Harbin is basically occupied by exotic beasts, and soldiers can't enter. It's a completely out-of-control area. Once something happens, it's completely impossible to find help." Jiang Xiu asked, "I heard that all the exotic beasts are heading to that ancient mountain. Do you know why?" The tour guide Chun touched his white beard stubble and said, "I don't know the details, but I heard that it's called the Immortal Land Mountain. It emerged because of the earthquake. A while ago, when aerial photography was still available, many elk could be seen running in the mountain. Don't all immortals ride deer when they travel?" In Chinese mythology, immortals did ride deer, and deer had the highest spirituality among all animals. The walking animals were deer, and the flying animals were white cranes. They were all standard. "Can anyone get anything from there?" The tour guide Chun shook his head and said, "I haven't heard of it. Previously, there was lightning on the Immortal Land Mountain from time to time. Thunder and lightning rolled down from the mountain from time to time, and no one dared to go up. Later, after the beast tide broke out and the exotic beasts wanted to occupy it, we realized that there might be something good inside. That's when everyone thought of going up." The car suddenly stopped. The tour guide Chen asked, "What's wrong?" The driver turned around and said, "There should have been a fierce battle on the original route. The road has been sealed and we can't get through." Li Yan said, "Then what should we do? I paid a huge sum of money. It's going to be dark soon. If we can't get there, will we have to sleep in the car?" Once night fell, it was basically pitch black in Harbin. The power supply had long been cut off. Not good. The tour guide, Chun, saw a figure standing at the intersection ahead and waving at them. His expression changed. "There's a situation ahead. Retreat to the intersection behind." The driver responded and drove the van back. He turned the van around and was ready to turn back at any time. "What's wrong?" The person in front ran back and said, "There are a large number of exotic beasts and human corpses ahead. This road is completely ruined. If we still want to go to the Immortal Land Mountain, we'll probably have to walk in. Moreover, it's too dangerous. There might be many exotic beasts lying in ambush around." Li Yan said, "I don't care. You promised that you would bring me there." The tour guide, Chen, and his brother looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with difficulty. Boom. About a few miles ahead, there was a huge explosion. The entire ground shook. Looking over, a large number of exotic beasts were jumping on the roofs. They were densely packed and all of them rushed over. As far as the eye could see, there were at least 100 of them. Moreover, each of them was incomparably huge, comparable to an elephant. That was close. If we had gone there earlier, we would all have died. Li Yan said, "You have to do things after receiving money. Now quickly think of a way." The tour guide, Chen, looked at the sky. It was going to be dark soon. Once night fell, The car would be even more conspicuous on the road. Let's find a place to rest and wait for tomorrow. There's an abandoned shopping mall over there. Let's go in. I'll go pick up some firewood. There was a park not far away. They could pick up some trees and make a fire. Otherwise, people would freeze to death in the sub-zero temperature in Harbin. Jiang Xiu entered the shopping mall and took out his phone. He wanted to check the direction of the Immortal Land Mountain. If it was close, it would be convenient for him to rush over. However, the phone's navigation system couldn't pinpoint the location, and there was no map. So he could only give up. He then looked at the place where the explosion had occurred. The flames and the setting sun merged into a line. Coupled with the ruined buildings all over the ground, it was like the end of the world. Hey, don't you have food? Take it out. The woman's voice sounded. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.